Eric got it. I welcome everybody. Is this our second one? Is this our second one for the new year? Yeah, because we
Or
went
no, it's
live.
a,
This is our third one because we went live last Saturday. This is our third one.
was that the new year
Mm-hmm.
for AMA? Was that the new year?
No, not our AMA, but just in
Live
general.
last Saturday. It's our third.
Yeah, we went live, so here we are. If you don't know who we are Women in Linux. I am Tam. Let me see, do I get it right yet? And this is D. I always have to make sure I go the right direction. And we are excited about today. Today we got a special guest. I mean, it's been a long time coming uh, to have this guest on. I don't know. Should I run through the site or should we just bring him up because we've been
I mean,
chatting,
that's you. I mean, they know we are women in Linux.
right? And I
Blah
don't need
blah
to do
blah. Skip the da da.
la da da da
But we
dee dee
can.
do.
I mean, for housekeeping purposes and just general, good housekeeping, you should
All
just
right.
move through it.
Look, I don't even have my screen share. Oh, yeah, I do. Okay,
You
cool.
do.
All right, so we're Women in Linux. You can find us on social media throughout social media on at Women in Linux, and then on our website womeninlinux.org. Do we have a TikTok? Yes, I haven't fully brought it up. There'll be more announcements coming here in the next week or two, probably the next 2 weeks. If you want to donate with us or donate to us, I should say, you can always donate with your time by doing a show or being a guest on the show or what have you. Everything takes time when we're doing these things. It's like, what theme do we want to send? What message do we want to send? What make sure that something that you can be involved in as well. And on top of that, if that doesn't work for you and you don't want to do any of those things, you could always donate with your money. You can get your company to donate. It is a tax write off. We are a nonprofit. You're not donating to somebody on YouTube, you're actually donating to a nonprofit, right? And if you want to connect with us, you can hit connect. Go here, jump into our Slack. I know that our guest is not in our Slack. You do need the Slack app. I know he got away from Slack, but either way it go, is the offer is out there if you want to connect with us through Slack. Now, I did that really quickly, and I didn't
You
go on.
did. You skated through all of the stuff, but it's
I,
okay. You're excited. It's
well,
okay to
no,
be excited.
you can still talk about if you want to do a one-on-one session, you can join us on Calendly, and if you would like to, do we still have the affiliate link? I don't know if it still works or not, but we could
For
post
IT
it
Pro TV.
for IT Pro TV. I'm not sure if it still works, but nevertheless, it is there. You can post those things. And last but not least, if you just like our to hear our voice every week and do nothing else, please hit the like and subscribe. Retweet this broadcast, retweet all our broadcasts. Go like and comment on all our videos. There is a trove, or I should say a treasure trove of information, from how to get the job to who's hiring to how to interview to how to open up the terminal. We're gonna have some questions tonight, and I'm going in hard in the paint. Let's get our guests up. First stage first, Scott Hanselman is in the back. We know we met Scott. It's what, been 5 6 years.
It's,
Yeah,
it's, it's been 5. It's been 5 years because it's our 5 year anniversary, and that was the first conference we went to
it
as
was
women in
OzCon.
Linux. Yeah, as
Yeah,
women in Linux.
yeah.
And Scott was like, he was asking us like, what's on your roster? How many conferences you guys going to this year? What's the schedule looking like? And we're like, uh,
This our
we're
first
kind of
one.
new.
We
And
don't
he's
know
like,
what we doing. We just here.
we don't know what's going on in these
We
streets
just
yet. He
here.
was like, you guys are so put together. You got t-shirts and business cards and a website. Like, who are you people? So
Right, and so from there we just been, every time we meet up at the conference, we talk, we chat, we
he's a
chit chat
gracious
on
host.
Twitter.
Last
uh
time I went to the conference, I think it was an OzCon. It was in his hometown of Portland, and he had a great lunch, and he took us on a nice tour, and we just hung out. And
that
he's
wasn't
a
me,
very
that was you.
gracious host.
That was you.
Me, the proverbial we that were there.
That
You
was
missed
you.
out, but we that were there, you know.
Yeah, I missed out on that one. I had to work, but again, it's still that thing. But nevertheless, let's bring up Scott, and welcome to the stage. Let me get my ones out. Scott
Hey. Good to see you. Good to see you both.
Good to see you, Scott. How you doing? How you been?
I mean, it's March 365th, I think, right now, 2020. Definitely enjoying this
I don't know if it's
extended
me
March.
or your mic. Is it me?
I don't know. You're a little staticky, Scott.
A little static.
Maybe.
Let me hit refresh and we'll come back.
All right. Yep. So yeah, even and we're gonna talk about this too as we get Scott brought back in here. Let's see. Yep.
Yes, is that better?
Yeah.
All right. A little hiccup there.
Yep.
Yeah, I was saying it's what is it, March 365th of 2020 right now, the March that will never end. So as far as that's going, I'm doing all right. How are y'all doing?
We're doing good. No flow rider, like I said before, no flow rider, no
Omarion is has
Omarion.
No, none of that. That's coming through here. Some new.
Yeah, no beer. No beer with lime.
Whatever.
I'm gonna say it like that. But we've been vibing. We haven't been to a conference, in person for some time. What have you been on the conference track on a tour? I've been away from Twitter here and there, but how's the conference track been for you?
I have done a whole lot of virtual. I think I did one conference in Vegas in like a full, what do you call it? Like hazmat suit. Get in, do the thing, get out. Didn't feel super comfortable, but it was cool. Everybody's good. I'm not really doing any travel right now. So I don't know. Like, I don't want to live in fear, but at the same time, I don't need to be getting sick.
Right.
I don't need to be getting
Well,
sick.
you got other people to protect in the house, right? And
well, see, the thing is, though, my wife is a nurse, and she is a charge nurse and works in the ER and works in the COVID ward. So I'll probably get it from her before I'll get it from conference.
Got you.
But, we'll see. Doing a lot of hybrid stuff like this. Got the room and the lighting all kind of set up. Got my ring light, which I think makes a difference. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I like this kind of stuff.
Cool in there.
Thank you. This is actually a funny thing about this. I feel really strongly about people taking their space and like nesting. You know what I mean? Like making their space special. I actually wrote an article about the importance of nesting on my blog. Because this is a spare bedroom, but if you take $50 and put some LED lights in and like a slip cover on an old couch from Goodwill, suddenly your room looks like $1 million. And that's like really important. Like, I want to make my room a place that I can hang out in. So I got this $50 light and I can change the vibe. So I'll change it to match. I'll change it to match your colors, right? Get some purple and blue in there. And then I got a little TV from Costco that I can put art on. Like I put Chromecast art, and it makes a spare bedroom look great. I think I put $350. Like, this is like this plus the $50, and everyone's like, "Oh, you got a studio." It's like, no, I really don't. I just intentionally thought about what makes me happy when I come here, and I got my little app to do my colors and stuff.
Got you.
And then I got like inspirational things on my desk, like Fabulous Batman. He's a ninja. He's a fairy. He's a ballerina, and he's Batman, right? So he tells me I can do anything, and he just sits right here. So if sitting at the kitchen table with the laptop feeds your spirit, cool. But if redoing the spare bedroom with a coat of paint and some IKEA shelves works too, do that. So yeah, I made my space my own, and it makes me happy.
Right. And I know you talked about, we was backstage talking about creating in your own space. So I'm gonna ask you, I saw one of your videos, I think it was a TikTok video, but it's also on YouTube too. This is always the war, and people don't like to get into it, but I'm gonna start it off with a bang. Which one's better, Vscode or Vim? I'm just gonna go at it. Let's go.
Here's the thing, right? We had a funny TikTok. I've got a TikTok, by the way. I'm an old man on TikTok, which is probably a mistake. And on TikTok, there was a fight amongst the Vim and the VS people, the Visual Studio people and the Vim people. I got to say, I'm non-denominational. right?
Okay.
Here's the deal. If somebody comes to your house and knocks on the door and says, "Have you heard the news?" You might feel some kind of way about that. You might be like, "I don't need you coming to my house trying to get me to change religions." But good for them for being excited about the news, whatever the news is, right?
Mm,
Like if someone talks and says, "Have you heard about Vim?" I have. I'm excited that you're excited about Vim. Good on you. I'll close the door, but I go with God and enjoy Vim. I like VS Code. I'm excited about my thing. And if you're excited about Vim or Pico or Nano, I'm never going to disrespect anybody because they got to run Pico, right?
right.
So
But
that's
I'm
cool. Run
gonna go
Pico.
with Vim, and
Then, that's great. Let's do it, right?
and
I can
then
do that.
I'm gonna go and say I don't pico unless it's on my my tacos.
No Pico, no Nano. We're not running Elm. There's choices. There's choices. I
Emacs.
can do Vim, I can do Emacs, but I might have to shut my computer down to get out of Vim, so
Blow blow.
no, I really don't mind. I mean, this is the thing, right? What's the metric? What's the thing we use to
Yeah,
measure success? Success.
right.
That's the metric. So
Getting it done.
you have been successful for many years with Vim. More power to you.
Yeah, getting it done. Oh,
Yeah.
Scott, we thought we was gonna have a flame war. We had
Hey.
Tim always wants to smoke.
yeah, we had Brian Lyles on, and we had a couple other people on, and we was like, you know, uh AWS or Azure. What are you doing? Who are you taking if you had to stand up something? And we just go back and forth just playing. And then the other part of it is the why. Why are you choosing for this scenario to deploy X, Y, and Z? Or if you're looking at cloud native tools, what are you choosing when you're talking about your container runtime and the why you're choosing that
Sure.
container?
I can tell you the why. Absolutely.
Right. So that's we'll do it later. We'll get into it later. But while we were backstage, you were talking about making your space your own, and you were displaying your terminal. You want to go over your terminal and even talk about because I remember when I met you, I think it was we met at one of the VC situations, and you had just started getting different off the shelf devices for tracking your blood and sugar levels and stuff. Well, more
Yeah.
so your sugar level, and then now I think that project took off some now, right?
Yeah, well, so I'm involved in an open source community that does open source artificial pancreases. So I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I've got some implanted batteries and Bluetooth devices that then go up to the cloud, and they tell me what my blood sugar is. So recently, I worked with a gentleman on a thing called Oh My Posh. You might be familiar with Oh My ZSH. And this is a custom prompt. It originally started for PowerShell, but it also works in Bash and it works in ZSH. So our Linux friends can do that. I've got it working in both places. And what I've added here is what are called segments. I've got a segment that shows my current directory, one that shows my blood sugar, one that shows my Git prompt, and then the health of my current system. In this case, my last command was a error level 0. And then I've got the current folder here. If I go to another folder that's in a different repository, you'll see that in my case, since I use .NET, it shows the version of .NET. If I was using Node or Python or pip or whatever, I could do a version there as well. And you see my blood sugar is updating each time I hit enter. About every 5 minutes, it changes. That information is important to me. That's a status update, right? But you could change this and make this segment show your AWS login or your current Azure subscription, or it could be whatever information. Am I in production? Am I in development? Am I on a production environment? Maybe I want my whole background of my terminal to turn color. So like right here, you can see I've got PowerShell. I've got this kind of nice see-through glassy looking thing here. I can switch it over to Ubuntu. This, I think, is Ubuntu 1804. So it's got kind of I know. But I got the Ubuntu logo here, right? And actually, if I wanted to, let's do this actually, because you're shaming me for being behind. Let's just solve that. Now I'm running Windows 11 for folks who are watching, but I can go and run WSL-list-V, and on this Windows.
And tell people what WSL is, because for those that may not know.
I apologize. You're absolutely right. Okay, so I'm running Windows 11. You can do this on Windows 10 as well. WSL is the Windows subsystem for Linux. So if you have a Windows 10 machine right now, you can type WSL-install, and it will set your machine up for Linux. And I can go WSL-install, or actually -list-online. And these are Linuxes that are available to install in Windows right now. So we could put on Ubuntu 2004, like as we sit here. So I'm going to go WSL-install -d Ubuntu 20.04. And it'll probably go up and look in the cloud, and there it goes. So now it's going to go and install Ubuntu locally here. While that's happening, I'm going to split my screen in half.
Got you.
And
now
then I'm going to go over here.
Underneath all of this, because I hadn't played with. I don't even have a Windows box to play with. Maybe I'll spin up one inside of somebody cloud and then play with it. What underneath the WSL is this? I know it's not a separate partition, but it's embedded inside of Linux. I mean, inside of Windows, but does it have its own partition, or is it a shared partition?
That is a brilliant question. So let's break it down into some details. Originally, oops, it's actually launching Ubuntu already. So in the time it took you to ask that question, it's actually installing Ubuntu. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. We'll look at that in a little bit.
Okay.
WSL originally, WSL1 would make it so when an ELF binary or a Linux binary made a call, like a syscall into Linux, Linux wasn't there, it's Windows. So it would say, hey, hang on, you want to open a file? Open file. And it would say, you know, I'm going to take that system call and I'm going to redirect it to the Windows kernel. It was a lie. We would basically, every time we saw anybody doing anything Linuxy, we would say, no, you want that. And we would basically have a layer. So every time the left hand saw Linux, we would lie and we'd call Windows.
I got you.
That was great, but the problem is there's hundreds of system calls and the Linux kernel is complicated, and you know you can only kind of play, you can only play whack-a-mole with these, and lots of stuff didn't work.
Right.
WSL 2, which is the current version, and we'll just now switch it to call it WSL, has a Microsoft Linux kernel, right? Because Linux is open source, and you can go up and you can see where we forked it, and we added a little herbs and spices. And there are herbs and spices specific to Windows. And then we fire up a micro VM, not micro as in Microsoft, micro as in small.
Right.
Because you could run VirtualBox or Parallels or Hyper-V forever. But if I said, oh, just fire up a Linux VM, you're like, okay, let me fire that up. 30 gig download. Wait for 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then all you end up with is a square inside another square. Like, I got Windows and I got a VM, and then you just say, why don't I just run Linux? Right. And you know, we've been talking about this, you know, the three of us for 5, 6 years.
Right.
Y'all are not going to use Windows. I'm not trying to sell you on Windows. That's cool. But what I want you to know is that if you find yourself on a Windows machine, or if you are a person who has a Windows machine and you want to do both, how quickly and easily can we get this started? So we spin up this tiny VM, and it starts up in about a second. Here's the Linux, the Ubuntu that we just started, by the way. So let's go and put in my username here, and oh crap, I just gave my password away. Yeah, man.
You can go back to the line and change it.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get you before you get off the stream.
There we go. So LSB release -A. There you go. So now we're on 2004. Okay. If I go back over to Windows and I say WSL --list -v, I have my default 1802, Docker, Kali, Debian, and then the one that we just started. And you see how some are running and some are not?
Got you.
All right. If I go and close my terminal here and I run it again, the Windows terminal, it's now going to detect that newly installed one. So I've actually got 4 Linuxes installed,
Got you.
plus PowerShell, plus SSH into Azure, which again could be SSH into anything, right? Doesn't matter. And now I can go and spin those up whenever I want to and have all kinds of fun, right? That allows me to, there you go. So now this one's running. I could go and say, let's run the other one. Let's run them side by side. Debian, Kali, and 2004. There you go. So there's 4 Linuxes all living together, hanging out. And you see how fast they're coming? They're very, very quick and easy. And I can delete them. And then what's great is I could go and take one of these, tar it up, and give it to one of y'all, and you could then import it. So if I were a company, I could make the standard distro that I want my Windows people to use, tar it up, and then you'd go WSL import.
Right.
And then use it. And then what's great about this is I can even like plug in USB and flash devices. And we've got it set up now where we can share USB from Windows to Linux, and I can do my IoT work. So you might just say, well, why is this better than just running Linux? Well, I like Windows, right? I enjoy working on Windows.
Well, no, it gives you the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
It gives you the ability to be in 2 worlds at one time. So if I created a PowerShell script or something like that, and I wanted to take that PowerShell script and whatever the case that may be, I want to upload it somewhere, or I just want to be in the terminal all day. I really don't want to be in the GUI and clicking around. Maybe I just want to be in the terminal and do something. I can see that play.
And also Windows people are used to Googling for how to do something. Like, how do I do Mongo? And then they go to a website and it says, okay, go to your prompt. And then it shows us this. And we kind of go, well, I guess this is not for me, right? Because my prompt looks like this. What do I do, right? I got here. I want to be able to mix and match. I like the Windows UI. I like playing my games. I like doing that stuff. So what we can do is something really interesting. Here's our Linux partition. Now you had asked about partitions. And I think that's a really important thing to call out. This is the Linux file system. If I run df, you can see it. Look at the bottom at those 4 mount points.
Yep.
So we're actually running on a VHD, a virtual hard drive, which is a big file. So Windows sees a big file, and that file shrinks and compacts. It's not a partition. It's a file sitting on top of NTFS.
Okay.
But the mount points, I can always get to my Windows file through these mount points.
Got you.
But if I type Explorer, right, which is like Windows Explorer, that's not going to work. But remember I said that there were some herbs and spices. I could say explorer.exe. Linux is going to say, I don't know what that is. I don't know who's responsible for that. And then that will launch the Windows Explorer. The Windows Explorer has now a Linux node.
I got you.
So what we're doing is we're running what's called a Plan 9 server, and we're kind of basically doing a Samba server across between these 2 things. And that enables a lot of really interesting scenarios, because then I can go and let's find some code.
So almost like when you say Samba, I think SIFs. When I start thinking about SIF shares, but I mean, I get Samba. You can do authentication with Samba and LDAP back and forth between that. I get you.
Yeah, exactly. So I could go and do something like run Visual Studio Code, and then from within VS Code, I could say I'm going to go and open not a local C drive, but I could open a WSL Linux. And then what happens is Visual Studio Code splits in half, like a client-server application, where the Windows part is the part that drew it, and the Linux part is actually a headless server that allows me to manage my code. And then I can work in the environments that make me happy. It's basically like opening a remote where the remote is local.
Right.
The remote
Local.
is Linux, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to go and fire that up. And now you can see I'm on Windows, but I'm talking to Linux. I get the same experience here, but I can even open up another terminal here I'm on Windows. There's my terminal inside of Vscode. But if we scroll down here, in fact, what's happening is Vscode server is doing the work. What's nice about this is, again, I can do my Windows work. I can do my Linux work side by side. I can run Kubernetes. Everybody has this. This is really important because a lot of people at home might have a Walmart laptop that they got for school. I know that my nephew right now just started his first year of computer science. He's got a regular laptop and he's like, I'm ready to torch it and put on Linux. And I said, hey man, you have Windows Home. And he's like, I don't want to pay for Pro. I'm going to put Linux on it. I said, we actually made this work on Windows 10 Home, Windows 11 Home. You don't need a Pro SKU. It's free. It's free. It's free. That was super important to us to point out. So then on Windows 11, we added a new feature. So if I go here to the start menu and I click on U for Ubuntu, check this out. When you sudo apt-get an app, it shows up now in the start menu with a little tux. So I can go and run GUI apps natively on Windows. So if I go and run like the GIMP, probably start up on another monitor.
So I don't need Wine anymore.
You do not. So you don't need Wine if you're running Windows, and that will start up. I think it's on one of them. There it is. So here's that, and look, it looks like a Linux app because it is a Linux app. Okay.
Gotcha.
And if I go File, Open, that's the UI you'd expect to see, right? So here's the other thing that we're working on that you might get a kick out of. Check this out. That's just, I've been talking about WSL. Now I can show you WSA, the Windows subsystem for Android.
Oh.
So on the beta train of Windows 11 now, we can go and run Android applications. So where'd my Android app go? So here's like Final Fantasy, the Android app. I can go in here and I can launch the Amazon App Store. That is itself an Android app.
So, and I know we got questions coming in, but I'm.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. I could go all day.
I got everybody a question, but I did have this question. How do you see? Because we see Linux in satellites, cars, so forth or so on. How do you see this playing out? Like, say, for an infotainment system in a car, with that ability to have. Well, you still have the command line with PowerShell, and now you have the WSL. So now you got these little smaller devices, right? Some embedded devices that that you could possibly talk to. I mean, are we looking at this possibly in cars? I know we got the desktop, and you're talking about Android devices. I'm getting even smaller by talking about like the infotainment system in a car.
Well, so I could certainly develop for one of those, right? What all of this, I'm not a Microsoft like spokesperson, so this is all my opinion.
That's fine.
So my opinion is, if you think about what's Microsoft trying to sell people the cloud, right? So whatever we're doing, we're trying to eventually get you to do whatever you're doing in Azure. So if you're doing Python or you're doing Ruby or you're doing whatever, ultimately we'd love it if you put that up into Azure. If you're going to do Android apps, we want you to develop them on Windows. So it'd be great if you can run Android apps directly here. Since we've got this subsystem concept, whether it be the subsystem for Linux or the subsystem for Android, the idea is to make virtual machines easy to start up, to fire up quickly, and make them lightweight. We don't want to say start up Linux and take 3 minutes and have it be a big deal. You saw how quickly I installed Ubuntu 20.04 there. So on smaller devices, though, like this will work on any device that will run Windows. I've got a Surface Pro X over here, which is like a really, really thin laptop. It's an ARM-based laptop. All this stuff works on that. And that Windows subsystem for Android is, running real Android. It's not like an emulator. that Linux that we're showing, that's the literal Linux kernel with the actual binaries of Linux that's coming directly from Canonical. It's not Microsoft brand Linux. It's
Right.
it's what it is. Now, as far as how that might relate to smaller devices, I really can't speak to that. I do know that we do have an Android phone. Where's our Android phone? Somewhere around here. Oh, here it is. Have you seen this phone? The two screen, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's Android, right? So I want to be able, as a Windows developer, to be able to develop for a device like this easily and quickly. I want everyone, other than making Mac apps, which you could still do. You can't write Swift apps, but you could write Xamarin apps. You can write React Native apps. You can, Windows needs to be the operating system for everybody. And what I love about this is that I sit down with my nephew and he's starting school and he's like, yeah, this Windows laptop. And I said, hey, man, you can SSH. We install SSH. You don't even install PuTTY. SSH is here already. Well, I need to run, Linux for this class. And I need to run Debian for that class. Boom, boom. Now it's installed. Okay, well, how do I do Android apps? Well, here's 3 different options for how you can do Android apps. Right. Everybody's got to feel welcome, in my opinion.
Right. Well, not only that, it's just cut down on the cost
it's all free stuff.
Yeah, but if I know me, if I need to run Linux, I want my own separate box. I don't want to play with you and your Windows. That would be my old school.
Well, that's
right?
Cool, but then I will SSH neatly into my little partition on your machine, and that'll be cool too. We'll get along just fine.
Right. So you did have a question here, like no Red Hat in WSL.
Say that again.
No Red Hat in WSL, like you installed Ubuntu, you had the different.
Yeah. Let me show you that. So there's all kinds of ways to do that. So you can go ahead and share your share my screen again.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of ways to do this. You can install stuff from Docker. You can install stuff that is your own. You can make your own kernel. You are not limited to the distributions that we offer. If there's something else that you want to do, these are just. Oops, that's Linux. Let me switch back over here. You're not limited to what we're doing. We're not trying to close any kind of system down. So these are like, we got SUSE and OpenSUSE and stuff like that. But if you go online and you're like WSL 2, and then go rel. Oops, I spelled rel wrong. Look, here you go. How to rel running under WSL 2. There are ways to do that.
Got you.
So it's just a tar file, right? So when we go back to the command line here, and we say WSL --help.
Is that tar file a container?
No, that's a great question. I love that. So what you can do is, remember that there's 2 ways. You could use a container. I am running Docker here, so we could just get a rel container and run the container. But this is a tar file of the user mode files.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So remember that we did that DF.
Right.
It's a tar file of the main file system.
Gotcha.
Right? It's a tar file of that. And then I would give it to you and you could import it. So if somebody prepped a tar file, I wonder if they've done this already. Rel WSL tar import. Let's find out, because somebody's already ahead of us, right? Here's a CentOS.
Right.
Right. So that gets us pretty close.
And probably there may be one for Fedora.
Yeah, exactly. So here's Alpine Linux. Someone's done that. So look, obtaining the tar file for CentOS, right? So you get the tar. You can actually, this is interesting. I've seen this before. They actually tarred up the Docker container.
That's why I was asking.
That's
why I was asking. Is it a container? Because you can tar up the container, and then if you're looking for a tar file, boom.
I see what you're saying. My apologies. You're absolutely right. So I do have Docker, and Docker in this case is using WSL in the background. And you're right. So what they're doing here is they're getting the container ID, and then they're using Docker, to your point, to export that user mode stuff, not the kernel, but just the user mode stuff. And then so you can run any Docker file or take any Docker file and turn it into a WSL distro.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, good.
That makes sense to me.
All right, dig it. Yeah.
Let's see. Your next question is can I use WSL on Bootcamp?
Ooh, that's a good question. Can you WSL with Bootcamp? So you've booted into you're on Mac, now you're on Windows, and now you want to do WSL. That depends on how Hyper-V works on Bootcamp. So Hyper-V is underneath it.
Bootcamp.
So the issue is, if you are in Bootcamp, do you have a hypervisor? And it looks like you have to enable, there you go. You'll get this error when your Mac hardware doesn't support CPU virtualization. Then you boot into Mac and you turn on the VMX CPU features.
Mm-hmm.
Then you boot back into Windows onto your partition. And then they're talking about disabling compression in the file system. And then they're saying, yeah, then you're good to go. So that's what it is. You make sure that you're not compressing your disk drive, and you've turned on VMX virtualization, and yes, you're good to go. So yes, you can with a little dance. Good question. Good question.
Next question is this is from Michael Jenkins. Shout out to Michael Jenkins. Shout out to AfroP. Thank you for the questions. What is the best way to manage multiple users in WSL2 and MS Terminal? I want to have profiles that start as different users versus you having to use sudo.
Okay, that's a good question. So if I remember correctly, when we go to WSL -help here, you start up a distro here. You can say WSL-D and then the name of the distribution, and then you can pass in the username. Right? So you can create users as you like, as much as you want. And then you would specify them at the command line. So then, for example, here in the Windows terminal, I could make a profile that said, Ubuntu as Scott, Ubuntu as sudo, Ubuntu as whoever. So then you can log in as that user at the time that you fired it up.
Got you.
Okay.
Next one. Do WebSockets work in WSL?
Yeah, whatever you want works. So an interesting thing, if we pop out to WSL here, so here we are here. Let's go down to one of my websites. So here's my website, and I'm in WSL. And I say something like .NET run or .NET watch run. I use .NET, but it doesn't matter. You could use Node or whatever makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
Something interesting happens. You see how it says starting up on local host?
Mm-hmm.
That's done on purpose because Linux doesn't know that it's in a virtual machine. That's the whole point about virtual machines. That you're lying to them and they are in the matrix, and then they don't ask any questions.
Right.
This is local host with respect to the virtual machine.
So it still needs to get out from there.
It still needs to get out, exactly. So if we go to here and we run ifconfig, we can see that our IP address is this 172.
Right.
But if we go and we look at PowerShell,
and remember, ifconfig is native to Linux, not Windows. Yes. Your IP config.
That's great. That's a great point. So here we said ifconfig on Linux, and we got 172. We said ipconfig on Windows, and we got 100 dot something.
Right.
However, virtual Ethernet, we basically have a fake network locally. This 172.
Do y'all create a bridge? Is basically what you create? Okay.
Well, yes and no. So we do a port forwarding.
Okay.
So anytime someone binds to the external interface, we say, oh, you must want out. And then we punch it through. Okay. So we just opened up on 5,000. If I open up on 5,000, this is an interesting one here. Sometimes you have a situation where your local certificate doesn't line up. So I'm getting this protocol error. And if I remember correctly, I need to clear SSL cache locally in Chrome or Edge. Sorry, this is just a developer thing that ends up happening. I always forget how to do it. Clear SSL state. That's what it's called.
And we didn't even get into who you are, Scott. We just been
Oh, I'm a
going.
person on the internet.
We just been going like, hey, this is Linux. This is
This
women
is
in
it.
Linux.
You're
And
right.
this,
We did forget
look,
that stuff.
we didn't do none of that.
I'm sorry. My bad.
You're fine. You're fine. I'll bust out a terminal in a minute.
Yeah. I'm like, hi, who's this guy? Now we're at the terminal. Yeah, so I'm an old person on the internet. I've got a blog that you can take a look at. I've been blogging now for 20 years. If I go to my actual blog, hanselman.com, and hit blog, and then hit date, and then go to like 2019, 2020. You can see I've blogging since 2002. This is like basically every Tuesday and Thursday for the last 20 years. And then I've got a podcast that I think might be of interest to your guests and your listeners. Podcast has been going on for 822 episodes. And that word podcast is funny. Somebody told me that the word podcast is like the collective noun, like a gaggle of geese, or pride of lions. Except unfortunately, it's a podcast of white guys. So if you get two or more white guys, then you get a podcast of white guys. So many, many, many years ago, I tried to make sure that my podcast, and I want to point out I'm still scrolling and I'm not running out of people. Isn't that funny? We're not running out of anybody. They say there's a problem, but I'm not seeing a pipeline problem here. So it looks like the mall, and I'm still going. I still got 500 episodes to go. So the show here is cool people talking about cool tech. And there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes of it. I've also got searchable transcripts. So if you wanted to go and search the transcripts and search for Linux and find all the times that someone mentioned Linux, you'd go and do that.
Got you.
And then you could oops, that's Linus. Let's try Linux. Alexa, stop, man. What are you doing? I want to talk to you. So then I can go and say, all right, here, someone mentioned Linux right here at this period, and I could hit play and go straight to it.
And the timestamp.
And the timestamp. And when you get there, not only will it do that, it'll show you, it'll start talking, and then it'll bounce from like word to word.
Oh, got you.
So you can like click on it. It's really cool. It'll go there, and then you hit like, I want to talk from here, and then the words will like bounce away.
Got you.
Okay.
That's cool.
So yeah, so I'm on the internet, and what I wanted to show you was localhost 5001. There we go. So this is the local version on my Windows browser, but I'm talking to Linux. So we punched a hole. Now, if I want, I don't know how you do this on Linux, but there's a thing called TCP view on Windows, which is the hey, who's listening on what port?
SS
5001. SSS.
Yeah, okay. Or netstat -pant.
Okay, that's great. Let's actually do that. Let's do that. That's good. You're going to teach me something here. So I'm going to go and open another Linux.
Yeah. SSS is the new one, and netstat just one S. Wait, two S's. Sorry, two S's. That's the new one, and then the other one, the old school one, is the netstat -pant. If you want all TCP connections.
Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. So here's netstat,
and if you scroll up, you'll see it at the top, right there.
Okay, cool, perfect. Okay, great. So there's us listening on IPv6. Actually, do I have to say like netstat -4 or something?
Yeah, you can have it change. I think it's -4. Maybe you have to look at the thing, but it may be -4.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah. But you get the idea. So I go netstat, and we're listening, and you can see there's 5001 on the Linux side. Okay.
Right.
Now, if we switch to the Windows side, see this little blue penguin guy here? That's the WSL logo. That's WSL host. That's a Windows executable whose job it is to broker the traffic between the two.
Gotcha.
So the question was, does WebSockets work? Doesn't care. Sockets work. TCP works. Open a socket. Go nuts.
And does this executable, is this always running?
No, that's great. It is part of the it's part of the experience. So when I shut all of this down, it goes away. So like when we went back at the beginning here and we said WSL -- list -v. Right now I've got 1, to 3 Linuxes running,
Mm-hmm.
I could just go and say shut down and they'd all go away. And you saw the error message that I just pushed out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
That was because Visual Studio Code got mad because earlier I just shut everything down aggressively and I broke the socket connection.
You wasn't graceful with your
I was
shutdown.
very much ungraceful about that one. Yeah.
The next question was, let me make sure I get them in order here, was what are the current challenges that WSL looks to overcome?
Windows people like Windows. I like Windows. I have no problem with Windows.
Mhm.
But when I run my .NET application on Windows, but then I deploy it to Linux, I'm like, well, why don't I just run Linux? Well, I like running my Windows apps. I like the Windows interface. Like, I want both. So if you stop thinking about Windows as being an all or nothing situation, we had that mention at the beginning about how people are excited about the news, right?
Mhm.
Windows, old school Microsoft used to be like, it's going to be this way. You're going to use Windows and you're going to use Azure and you're going to freaking like it, right? I don't like that. Like, that's rules, right? If somebody has a thing where it's like, don't eat pork, okay, that's pretty intense, man. I would rather be like, don't eat pork, but if you do, here are some great recipes, right? That's Windows's philosophy now. Like, hey, run Windows, run Linux, run any Linux you want, run on the server side, run the client apps, run Android,
Mhm.
go nuts, right? Otherwise, then it's going to just keep being a fight between these 3 desktop systems, and that's just no fun for anybody.
Right.
I came here 15 years ago to open source everything. So I'm going to keep trying to do that, right? And if you want to go now and go and search for the WSL Linux kernel and like read about the code, like what's the actual code? Here it is, WSL Linux kernel, right?
What's
see
Scott,
the actual code.
What is a kernel, Scott?
You would be better than I would be, right? So let's think about it. Let's actually talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Oh, that's a great one. You're setting me up for success. That's why I like hanging out with you. Okay, let's write some pseudocode and we can talk about this.
Okay.
For each file in whatever,
Mm-hmm.
print file name. That's not real code.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot being said right there. There's a lot going on.
Right.
2 lines of code, right? So we got to go and we got to figure out, what does that mean, right?
Right.
We got to be like, okay, we're like listing a directory. This is like an ls.
Mm-hmm.
Or this is like a dir if you're a DOS person, right?
Right.
Who's going to do that? Somebody's got to go and get the hard drive. Somebody's got to spin up the hard drive. Maybe it looks like this. Maybe it's got a spin actually, and you can hear it. Spindle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not my job, right? When I get in my car and I put it in D, I don't worry about the tires. That's the tire's job. I don't worry about the axle. That's the axle's job. We're hiding things with these layers of abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if the steering wheel is attached. Like back in the day, there was a direct line between the steering wheel into the car, and you turned it and you could feel that I'm really turning the wheels. But now we have power steering. So I don't know what happens between the steering wheel and the wheels. Maybe there's gears. Maybe there's a cloud of mist. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happens with computers, is that we do something like this. We write some business code like this, and then, a miracle happens, and then a disk spins up. And then they're like, hey, you were a little vague in this part right here. Could you be a little more clear?
Right.
So is it correct for me to say that it's the kernel's job to do these low-level things? Its responsibility is to like, okay, you're in charge of figuring out how to talk to the disk. I need file names. Can you get on that for me?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. I love to use religious examples. So if I offend anybody, I apologize. But one of the funny things about religions is that everybody agreed in history up until a point, somewhere around Abraham. And then they kind of split and they disagree on some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Operating systems are the same way, right? Everyone kind of agreed, and then people are like, I can do it better, and I got another idea. And you've got the Windows kernel and the Windows philosophy. You've got Linux, and then Linux split into BSD, and you've got Darwin, which is the one that you get on Macs. And these are all different low-level systems whose job it is to manage memory, disk access, multitasking, you know, like even right now I'm typing in Notepad. There's one section of the system that's job it is to ask for a pixel to get drawn. And somebody else is responsible for actually telling the video card to put that pixel on the screen. It's all hidden from us. So the kernel's job is to do low-level things and hide it. And the kernel job is to basically do it well and do it fast. So Linux might have, and I think they're called syscalls, right? Syscall. And in Windows, it'd be called like the Win32 API or a kernel call. You know, it's a low-level call. So I don't know the syscall for opening a file. I'll just say it's like, I don't know, fs open. I'm making that up. So Linux says, unless you have that syscall in your head.
No, I think it is fs open.
Something like that. Okay. And then the Win32 one, you know, might be something inside of like a file called windows.h. You know, it's some low-level thing, and it's like, I don't know what the, you know, file open. I just made that up, right? It's all just the same kind of thing, right? But they're just different flavors, right? And then I want to write code like this. Ultimately, someone needs to ask the kernel to do that, and it's the kernel's job to hide that stuff from us. So what we're doing here is we're shipping a Linux kernel with Windows so that Windows can do both. But we're doing it in such a way that it's really integrated with Windows so that Linux is a first-class citizen and shows up
So
in the Windows
Linux
Explorer.
is not in the shelter.
It's exactly. Now, back in the day, you could, yeah, like we said, you could get VirtualBox, you could get any number of kind of things, but you can see how fast I'm like, hey, I need some Linux in my life, click, and now it's running. Now I'm in HTOP. It wasn't click, wait for the square to start up and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, and I give you my dry version of the kernel. My dry version of the kernel is without the kernel, there's no way I can talk to the devices. Right?
That's a great example.
Right. So without that kernel, and this is how I look at it, I wouldn't know that I have this memory that existed. I wouldn't know that I had this hard drive that existed. And back in the day, you would have to install drivers that the kernel would then recognize in order to have access to those devices.
Yep.
So, but now you can just install the actual driver, which gets integrated into the kernel, and now without rebooting, you can still have access to those devices.
Plug and play driver. Right.
Right.
If you take a look at this screen I just brought up here, this is on the Windows side. I don't know what the Linux side looks like, but here is a list of the devices on my machine. So this means that each one of these devices has a driver.
Yep.
And if I didn't have that driver, if the kernel didn't know about it, it wouldn't show up.
Right.
It wouldn't show up at all. And in fact, there's some drivers that I haven't installed yet on my machine that I need to get on. And I'll show you what it looks like on Windows. I don't know if you ever have this on. And it's like, you know, I know there's something there, but I couldn't tell you what it was.
The proverbial question mark.
Yep.
But I don't know what to do with this. I see something there, but I have no driver associated with this in order to get the job done, in which I need to have access to do that thing.
Exactly. And over here on Linux, I could say, you know, we do ls, of course, to see a directory. I can say ls USB, and I can see my USB devices from Linux here, right? So in this case, if I added a USB device, I would expect to see that pop in there. Because this is a virtual machine, there's a little bit of a dance, and I've got some details on my blog on how to do that. But that's exactly right. So hopefully that answers a question of our friend.
It does.
In the chat there.
I'm going to ask this question. How important do you think the kernel is?
Well, that's a great question. So that depends on how you think about it. How important is it? It is essential. How important is it that you know it exists is the real question.
Right.
So this is a thing that I'm interested in your opinion on, because when I learned to drive, my dad was a gatekeeper. And we know we don't like gatekeeping in tech. My dad said, you want to learn to drive? Great. I need you to change the oil. and change a tire, and then you can drive. That's kind of gatekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, now I know how to, he said, all right, well, I want to drive a car now. I did all those things. He says, well, I need you to know how to drive stick shift. I was like, we have an automatic. And he's like, but we might get in a situation where you need to emergency drive a stick shift. And then you got to take me to the hospital because I broke my leg and now I'm dead because you couldn't drive stick.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do if your students said, you'd like to write some Java, but before you do that, we need to teach you assembly language and you have to earn your garbage collector. Right?
So
like, that's not cool.
it's not cool, but Scott, you talking to the old school
See,
player.
you and I are similar though, because I'm like, you are a better person if you know how to drive stick.
Right. So my take is this. And Kelsey was on and I told him about this, and everybody who's been to my meetups and stuff, or even on the shows, I call it skill stacking.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
You're learning a skill and you don't know when you're gonna use it, but you know that it's there. It's just and we can even go back and equate this to the kernel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We can even say with the kernel, we know we have these drivers, we know we have these devices, but I don't know when I'm going to use it, but I'm there whenever you need me.
Yeah. So when I teach people, I encourage them to go one layer below their comfort zone and acknowledge that it exists.
Okay.
You don't need to be an expert, right? I'll give you an example. My kid trying to make toast, couldn't get the toaster to work. And he's like, we need to buy a new toaster. So we walked through the problem. We did all the debugging, and it turned out that the fuse had blown. Okay. And I said, well, why should we have bought a new toaster? We just needed to debug the problem. And he's like, well, why should I care about the fuse? Why should I know about electricity? Because it's part of the system that the toaster exists within. Mm-hmm. And now you know, and now the next time something happens, you'll be able to figure it out. And he's like, well, I don't want to become an electrician. I said, I never asked you to become an electrician. I asked you to know that fuses exist so that when it comes time to Google for fuses, you can get on that.
I asked you to solve a problem. And
exactly.
I always preach this in our classes is be the solution. Like you got to be the solution when you walk into the interview. They have a problem for you to solve. You got to go in and be the solution. Like I don't want you looking at any other candidates. I'm it. Or whatever the case may be. If you're going for if you're trying to seal the deal with a customer and you are coming in to solve their problems as you're trying to gain their business, you need to be that solution. Mm-hmm. But and I agree with going one layer, like what they're presenting to you is one thing, but I bet if you dug underneath one more layer, you'll actually find what that problem is. So being able to mentally explore and show the customer or whatever the case may be, what the possibilities could be.
Yeah. So I think you and I agree with each other where we don't want to gatekeep, but we also don't want to create people that don't know how to do anything.
Then you got to know how to fish.
You got to teach a person to fish. Exactly. 100%. Then the question is though, teach them, hey friend, on a call. Yeah, I got my text, love. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Goodbye. These kids are killing me, man. You go to all this work to set up like all this IoT in the house so I can tell the boys with like Alexa, and I've got like a light that's red that says on air so they can ignore it. You know what I mean? The power of the cloud so I can tell you not to burst in and bother me on a live stream.
It's all right. It's the work. Anyway. It's the work from home, Scott. It's the work from home. All right. Your next question was, did we answer the one about the futuristic technologies in WSL that you all are experimenting with?
Futuristic. I don't work directly on the WSL team, but I have heard that they know what people want, and like USB was the thing that we added recently with the help of let me show you this one. I got it on my blog. Making maybe COM ports. We have another one. Oh, here's one. Being able to mount ext4 disks directly. If we can bring up the screen here real quick. Mm-hmm. You had mentioned about file systems and stuff. If someone has like a Linux USB key or a Linux file system or an external disk, they recently added the ability to go and mount physical disks. So if you had a Linux physical disk, and you mounted it, like here's actually an SSD of my own. That's a Linux disk from another hard drive. I've got an adapter here. This is kind of cool. It's an NVMe SSD adapter to USB. And I can mount that now and access my existing Linux disks. That's something that they're experimenting with. And then another one was connecting USB devices directly. Because very often folks will, have some kind of a Arduino or a little IoT type device.
Mm-hmm.
Here we can go and say WSL attach and then the USB device. And remember that device manager that I had, you would basically unattach it from Windows and then attach it to Linux. So then I can go and do debugging with that. And that experimental technology was discussed on my YouTube. And I walked through exactly how that worked with this gentleman here is the PM, the program manager for WSL. And in here, I took an STM IoT device called a Meadow, and I plugged it in. And then over the course of this conversation, we flashed the operating system. So you can see us here in Ubuntu flashing this device, this little tiny, here it is.
And when he says flashing the device, you mean what, Scott?
Oh, I'm sorry. You keep me honest, and I appreciate that. I'm sorry. So this is actually brings up a larger conversation. Let's bring us to a split screen here then, instead of showing this.
Yep.
How would you explain the difference between a microprocessor and a microcontroller?
I don't know.
It's subtle, right? It's tough. Tara Walker out of Atlanta? I had Tara on my show, actually. Let me bring that up too. I'll go and show some videos these are all resources for our friends here. Take a look at this video here. So Tara is one of the IoT experts at Microsoft, and she brought on my video here all these different devices, and she said, what's a microprocessor and what's a microcontroller? And she quizzed me. And as I understand it, as she explained it to me, a microprocessor is like the one in your computer or your phone. It runs a full operating system, and it can do lots of stuff at once. And the operating system can be upgraded, and it does all the things. It has a kernel, like we talked about, and it can run lots of apps. A microcontroller is a tiny, 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 we'll call it a single tasking device. It can run an app, and it runs what's called an RTOS, a real-time operating system. Yep. So like your Nest doesn't run Windows, right? Your TV doesn't run a full version of Linux where you can plug in a mouse and
BusyBox.
Yeah, it runs something tiny like BusyBox, or even smaller, like a tiny real-time operating system. So all these little devices, you have to update their operating system. And when you do that on Linux, you boot off of a USB, or you do it on Windows, you boot off a USB and you run the upgrade. With these, you flash it or you burn it, just like you burn an image to a CD-ROM, you burn the image to the device, and that updates it. And it can be hard to do, and it usually involves a bunch of command line commands. And on Windows, it's been historically very hard to do. So we did this work to make sure that Windows people can update these little devices, even if they run BusyBox or something else like that.
And usually, for a frame of reference for everyone is, you may have a set of, say you are Linux admin, you get 20 Dell servers that come in, and their firmware has been upgraded since the boxes have been sitting in somebody's warehouse. You may need to flash the BIOS in order to update it, or just update the firmware in general, so that you can get the latest and greatest, whether it be security or the latest and greatest, whether it be some type of new technology they've integrated or backported into that particular version of the device that you have. So that's just a different way to look at it as well too.
If I may, I see one interesting question here that we should touch on, where someone was asking if they edit a file in like two places at once, what happens with that? Is that okay?
Yep. Go ahead. You got it. I don't see where it's at.
Yeah, sure. So the idea is that you can edit the files between WSL and Windows as long as you're editing them from the same place. So if I open up a file here, and let's do it in Vim, because I'm trying to be respectful as I'm a guest in this house. So I can open it up in Vim, right? Or I could open it up in VS. See, you can see me struggling to get out of here.
Escape : Q.
I know. It's been a while. It's been a while. You can open it up in Visual Studio Code like we saw. You can open it up in Pycharm as well, because we, as you mentioned before, have a file share, like a Samba file share. But the question here about a remote interpreter or over SSH, one of the cool things about Vscode, you can do Vscode SSH Linux. You can use Visual Studio Code and connect to Linux machines remotely. Vscode has an SSH plugin.
Mm-hmm.
So when I connect to like a Raspberry Pi that might be in the other room, I'll go into Vscode, bring up Vscode over here.
And what is Vscode, Scott?
Vscode is my favorite editor. We had a person in the chat who was talking about Atom.
Mm-hmm.
It's a code editor. I wouldn't call it quite an IDE, an integrated development environment. I would say it's like a really friendly editor on steroids. It has plugins though, so I can plug things in.
Sounds like it sounds like Jenkins.
Yeah, maybe. It's like a lot of things. It's like Pycharm, it's like Atom, it's like Visual Studio, but it's become very popular in the last kind of 3-4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that it has is this concept of remote SSH. So if I wanted to go and remote right now into one of my other machines, I could do that. And then I'd basically be remote editing. It takes care of all the work for me. And that makes it really easy if you're doing homework to use this editor, this friendly editor, and then SSH remotely over there.
Now, Scott, I did have this question.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, let me make sure I covered all the other questions. Oh, hold on. Besides Microsoft evangelizing people into their tent, what is the grand vision for WSL?
Well, so the world of capitalism right now is one of both competition and cooperation, right? Everybody wants to win, but nobody's going to win. But everybody also in the open source world wants to cooperate. From my perspective, again, speaking as Scott, not as Microsoft, Microsoft would love it if you bought Office. Microsoft would love it if you bought Xbox. And Microsoft would love it if you bought Azure Time, right? But I'm, like I said, non-denominational. I got a PlayStation, I got an iPhone, I got Windows. Like, I use what I like, whether it be an Apple Watch or whether it be whatever. I don't have any affiliation with one thing or the other. I do like Windows genuinely. I enjoy Windows. I'm not selling anything because everything I do is open source. But if Windows didn't change, then it would probably lose, right? If anyone in business doesn't change, then they're going to lose.
Yep.
So the grand vision from my perspective is to make it so any developer can develop any app on the operating system that they may happen to have. So we have tools for Azure, for example, like the Azure command line that allow you to develop Azure apps, web apps on Linux. Visual Studio Code runs great on Linux. It's actually included with Ubuntu now. Why is Microsoft doing that? Some goodwill, but also we'd love it if you use our cloud. On the Windows side, I got tired of opening up virtual machines, right? Like, I don't want to maintain multiple machines. I like that WSL doesn't make me feel like it's a big deal. Like you saw how quickly we installed Ubuntu 20.04 earlier. It didn't take 2 minutes. That's how easy things should be. And then containers, as you mentioned before, is another great example. Making containers really, really easy on Windows, I think, is a goal in the future, because then you could have that container run in the cloud.
Gotcha. And I think one more question, and then we're going to get into it. What was it at? Oh, yeah. So can WSL be independently, I guess, used without the Windows OS overhead in a container?
No, because containers on Windows are powered itself by WSL. So if you were running a container on Windows, WSL is the power behind it. So if I bring up Docker right now, and I bring it over here, and I'll show you, go ahead and bring up our screen here. Let's look at, there's Docker, and then I say Docker images. This list of images is the same as this list of images, and it is WSL underneath it. In fact, if we ask our Windows machine what WSL things are currently running, Docker is actually one of them. Docker desktop is a WSL instance. It is a WSL tar file.
Gotcha.
So WSL can't be used independently without Windows. Now that said, if Afra P, who's asking the question, wanted to play with our kernel, yeah, I mean the Windows kernel's up there. It's on GitHub. The code is there. It's all open source, so you could go and play if you want. You'd be playing with the WSL kernel though in your own time and your own thing.
Got you. So now I'm gonna get into it. Okay. So we have you have WSL. Question I have is now how vulnerable is my operating system now that we've added on this piece? What's the security ramification, and it's open source. So now we're talking about how are we protecting the supply chain for this.
Yeah, so that's why the kernel is the Microsoft kernel rather than some off-the-shelf kernel. So the secure supply chain stack is managed by the fact that the kernel being used is a Microsoft fork. It's still Linux. It just happens to be one where as Linux commits go in, that team who keeps that kernel up to date can go through each one of those to make sure that the supply chain is clean. Now, it's not using Hyper-V proper. Hyper-V is the virtualization system that comes with the Pro version of Windows, but it is using those Hyper-V instructions, the underlying what's called virtualization platform. That's why it works on Windows Home and not just Pro, because you don't require Hyper-V, which costs money. It just uses the virtualization platform underneath. That virtualization platform means that the most that an attacker could do if they were attacking Linux would be mess up the Linux. You can't escape because you're inside a VM. So it's the same surface area for attack that you would have had if you were running a full virtual machine.
Got you.
Yeah.
All right.
And when you're running a sudo inside of Linux, you're still not admin outside in Windows.
So let's see. I know what your answer may be, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. PowerShell versus Ansible. Which one are you going with?
Probably Terraform, but so it depends on what you're doing, right?
So we're saying you need to configure a Windows box that's in the cloud, and you need to install some applications and set up some users.
I'd probably use Terraform.
You still gonna use Terraform?
I probably use Terraform, but I probably have PowerShell running. So PowerShell is an interesting thing because people don't realize that PowerShell, which is a scripting language like the Bash scripting language, is cross-platform now. So I can run PowerShell is cross-platform, open source, and has been for years. And we also need to make sure that we don't conflate PowerShell, the shell, the prompt, with PowerShell, the scripting language, which is what you're referring to. Because PowerShell now is both Linux and Windows, it means that someone who's familiar with that can, manage multiple machines, just like if they're familiar with Terraform or with Ansible, they can do those as well. I like Terraform because Terraform is pre-installed in Azure. So if I log into Azure, it's already there. Azure has this thing called the Azure Cloud Shell.
The Cloud Shell. I thought you was going with Azure DevOps.
Yeah, well, that's a good point too. I do use Azure DevOps, but I just went to shell.azure.com, and I can go up here in the corner and I can get a free PowerShell or a free Bash. So right out of the box, if I can switch it to Bash, but Terraform's already pre-installed. So now it's going to go and connect to a terminal, and then I'll be able to go and access my shell in the cloud. So here we go. Just launched my shell, and then it's going to authenticate. It's going to take my drive. Here's Cloud Drive. There you go. Here's some Python thing from back in the day. And then there's Vim. I got a swap file. Edit anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So here I've just gone to shell.azure.com. I signed in with my Azure account. I got a free PowerShell, and I can go and run around. I happen to be in PowerShell, but I've already got Terraform. I've already got Azure, the Azure command line pre-installed. So I'd probably jump from here. But, again, this is the thing, right? We talked about what the success metric is. It's whatever makes you happy.
Yep.
Whatever makes you happy. I have no problem. I'm not
trying
to sell anything other than power.
Yeah, you're like me. It's whatever you're comfortable with to get the job done. I always encourage people to try different stuff. I haven't encouraged everyone to drive PowerShell yet. Haven't been on that train,
Well,
but I am on the Terraform train, on the Hashi train.
yeah, like here's a trivial, stupid example of something that I use PowerShell for, and this is silly. Okay, so you see how I have these PowerShell scripts right here? They're nothing scripts, but I want them to run anywhere. So if we look at, let's look at Docker test. This is a nothing script, but this is great because it's good for teaching because it does a couple of interesting things. It goes and it runs my test unit, my unit test rather, in both Windows and in Linux. So first line we have here is called a hash bang. Sometimes it's called a shebang.
Shebang.
Right. So it's important for folks to remember that extensions, and correct me if I'm wrong here, don't mean as much on Linux as they do on Windows, right? Having this .ps1 tells Windows that's a PowerShell file.
Correct.
But Linux doesn't care as much. They'd rather learn about what executable to use with this thing. So I put them both. That means now that I can run this script on both Windows and on Linux. Then I go and I build my podcast application here, my little website. And then if it's on Windows, I mount to the D drive, else I mount to the home folder.
Okay.
So it's just a stupid little if else.
But you don't go through and recognize that it's actually Linux. You just
in this case here, I said if it's Windows, else it's something else.
Right.
But I could say if it's Linux, right? But then you mentioned Azure DevOps. Yeah. You mentioned Azure DevOps. I can go over here, which is where I go and build my my website. So here's my different websites running in DevOps. Here's the Hansel Minutes, which is the podcast. We go into the pipelines. This was a build, actually a 90-second build on Wednesday.
Ooh, my bad.
Okay. So on Wednesday, I went and I worked on some stuff and I ran that build, but this only runs in Ubuntu. So this will, when we run that script, will run this part, this else. Now I could be more specific. I could say if I'm running in DevOps, if I'm in a container, if I'm in Docker, if I'm in whatever. But for this, it was just a fun little example of a trivial script where I said, if I'm Windows, do this, otherwise not that.
Got you. All right. The other question I did have is, okay, you've been doing podcasting, or I'll say podcasting and vlogging or blogging for 20 years. What are some, let's start with the beginner stuff. What are some tips to get started? And then we'll move from beginner to medium, because you can break that into what you learned over time, and then to where you're at now, because technology has totally changed from when you started to where you are now.
Well, so I'm trying to slowly build this playlist called Computer Stuff They Didn't Teach You in School.
I saw that.
Right. I'm trying to make this list here. I put it up on the screen. I've got, I like history. I think you and I are real similar because there's a lot of historical context that people don't understand. So, for example,
Scott, you don't want to hear what they're saying in the streets about us.
do you do this stuff too much? Because I really
no. In the streets, they're talking about Gen X didn't do anything. We the brokest generation.
They've forgotten Gen X. Gen X is disrespected consistently.
Aren't they though? They so disrespectful.
Somebody called me Mr. Punch Cards on TikTok yesterday.
And you've been owning it. That's the funny part about it. Like, I'm Mr. Punch Cards.
I guess I'm not Mr. Rogers. I'm Mr. Punch Cards. I'm like, that's fine. I'm like, what young person? That's like calling somebody Mr. VHS or Mr. Cassette Tape. I mean, I just very disrespectful.
So disrespectful. Yo, but what's the other one? The late 1900s. That's what we were born.
The late 1900s. The shade.
Yeah, I know the shade, and I was on a live the other night, and I was blasting them because they was like, what contribution did Gen X have? I was like, well, if you want to know the truth, the S3 bucket you didn't have an S3 bucket to 2005. You didn't have Amazon until I think 2006. I was like, what are you talking about? Without Gen X, you're nothing. You don't even have this platform that you speak on.
our contributions are legion. I mean, even just 90s R&B is enough for people to respect us and our
You're
work.
welcome.
Yeah, exactly. You're welcome. Right. Omarion has a lot to be thankful for.
Tam and I were looking at some pictures. She sent me a video of Freaknik, and I was like,
oh,
I was just like, these crazy kids, they look exactly the same hair, same crop top.
All of Instagram has Freaknik to thank for basically everything that's going on there.
Right. Say you're welcome.
We need to basically get that to trend. Like Gen X, you're welcome needs to be a thing.
Yeah, so like when I talk about it, so yeah, you started out with blogging. You've been doing it 20 years. I'm a beginner in the game now. What would you recommend?
No.
Not me. I mean, what? No, I am.
We're fairly
only 5-10 years, right? I guess that makes you a beginner.
That makes me
in the content. When did y'all start your content game? 6 years ago?
Yeah, we started putting our content on YouTube immediately. That's where it was a repository for our meetups, and so we have.
That's how I started too.
Yeah, that's how we started. But literally, it was like last year, the end of January. We were like, okay, we're going live.
Well, so here's the thing: the podcast, as an example, is a trick. Because if I randomly emailed, like I emailed Tamika and I said, hey, you want to grab coffee? I don't have time for you. I'm doing things. I'm busy. You want to come on my podcast? Oh, it's just coffee, but I recorded it. But then it's a video, it's audio, it's a transcript, it's a blog post, it's a pamphlet, it's a quick sheet, it's a cheat, it's content, right? How many times have you called one of each other and had a blast and said, we should have recorded this, right? Then record it. That's the thing, right? So when someone emails me, let's say that one of our friends who's watching says, hey, good job having Hanselman on, sends me a note. Hey, Hanselman, connect with me on LinkedIn. I want to pick your brain. I don't know you. I am not. No, that doesn't scale. What if they write me a really awesome question though? Like they write up a whole thing, they tell me about their whole life, and I got a technical question. It's brilliant. That's a tough one. If I ignore them, I'm a bad person. If I type a big, long 5-page answer and they're like, thanks,
I'm mad.
Now I'm mad, right? So I only have so many keystrokes left in my hands before I die, right? I'm starting to know. I know how, like I can calculate how many more keystrokes I have left in my hands. I actually made a website called keysleft.com. And you can go here and you can type in how old you are, and you can type in how fast you type. And I know that I have 228 million keystrokes left in my hands before I die. And those keystrokes are going down. They're going down as I sit here. That means I could be writing computer programs or emails to my boss, right? What do you want to do with your life? So one of our wonderful friends who's on the live stream sends one of us a note. That question, though, the question was a good question. That question is a gift.
Right.
So the answer isn't to type back to them. The answer is to write a blog post or a YouTube or some sample code and then send them a link to it and then go to sleep and then wake up and 100 people saw that. So it's like you sent emails to 100 people. They gave you the gift of a question and you give them the gift, not of an email. Nobody wants email. The gift of a link to their question answered.
Right.
Do that for 20, 30 years and you'll be a mid-level blogger like me.
Right.
Right. That's all my blog is a frequently asked questions for myself and for people who send me notes. So I never send emails. I always send links to stuff I've already done. And what's cool about that then is you have a wiki for yourself. So we go to blog and I go here to category and this is all blog posts. So I'll just talk to you all and keep scrolling. All this is emails I did not send. Right? Because email, that's where things go to die. Email's where keystrokes go to die. So anytime someone sends you a question, what a gift. What a gift. So then write a blog post about it, but put it in a place where you control. Because how many keystrokes have you all lost at websites that don't exist anymore.
Right.
You know, don't give Facebook your keystrokes. Don't give it to Medium. Give it to your website that you own. And that's the great part. I've learned more about managing websites by keeping this one alive for 20 years.
And
so I love
and from under attack.
Oh yeah, but you know how these things are, right? Like you got to register the domain, you got to keep the SSL certificate fresh, you got to apt-get upgrade and keep it. That's learning, right? Maintaining a garden,
right?
Not
and
a walled garden, but your own garden. Yeah, exactly. Pulling the weeds,
right?
So now that's my philosophy.
Now, say someone wants to write a blog post, I always tell people to start with like maybe 500 words, something small.
Yeah,
you know,
digestible.
Don't overdo it. Just keep it small, and it forces you to be concise and precise with your words, because now instead of this fluff, you're like, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, versus here's step 1 and then A, B, C, D, and then step 2 and A, B. No, here's step 1. You're gonna explore. You're gonna probably come back, and then it also sparks the dialogue and maybe I don't want to say a friendship, but maybe a mentorship situation sometimes, because now you're having the person go fish.
Yep.
And they're coming back with their answers and what they discovered. And then now you're like, okay, well, let's tailor it down some in order to try to narrow the focus.
Well, you know how when you see someone in your neighborhood again, like you see a stranger again, that is enough for you to kind of like, okay, like, hey, I see you again. And then you say hello. That takes time. Those relationships build, whether it be a person in the neighborhood or someone in the social neighborhood. People who are networking that get started, they can kind of be aggressive overly by like, send me a big long LinkedIn with their life story and like, let's connect. But if I see them around, oh yeah, you were in that Discord. Oh, and yeah, you had a good question on Twitter. Oh, and that live chat with Women in Linux. That happens over a couple of months. And if your social persona is the same avatar and the same username, then it's like, oh, that's that stranger I've seen again, you know, multiple times. That builds rapport. I have lots of cool, like lowercase f friends from the internet that it's like, I wouldn't like pick them up at the airport, but we're cool because it's that same person again.
But
so
you would talk to them at the conference.
Of course I would talk to them at the conference, and we share gifts and we share sample code, right? And we're cool. And, you know, I would pick you all up at the airport, but I'm just saying, like, there's like people that you need to take the bus.
Right. Now, when we're looking at this, because this question comes to me a lot, and I should make a blog post, and maybe we'll do something together or whatnot, right? Hey, because I see Sherelle and I see Black Dazzle and I see a lot of people out there. They're new to tech, or they're trying to get in, or trying to figure it out. They're not even sure where to start. And, you know, I'm hardcore. You know, I'm going to start you at Linux, right? I'm gonna start you at Vim, and you'll never see Pico, Nano. You won't even see Vscode. You won't see nothing.
That's okay. That's okay. You
drive from the command line.
Drive stick shift to the command line. Nothing wrong with that.
Right. But from your standpoint, where would you have someone start? That's new. I a lot of people send people down the route of A+, and see, you like me, like,
I mean, listen, if you go and become an A+ certified person, that would be like me taking a class on how to be an EMT, an emergency medical technician. I could learn how to, like, you know, clear and then like blow in your mouth, but I'm not a doctor. You know what I mean?
Right.
And an EMT is not going to be an entry point into me becoming a doctor. I'm going to carry that certificate around, tell everybody how I'm CPR certified or whatever. But you know, like brain surgery time, you gotta go pre-med. You got to go pre-med, right?
Right.
So for me as a web person, it's about the web. So like I always like to say, my starting point is view source. Go to your favorite website, right click view source. Like that's a good place to start. I love this website here. It's a little old. It's called don'tfeartheinternet.com. And it just talks about don'tfeartheinternet.com, basic HTML, right? I was on a call recently with somebody, and we went to a web page, right? and I right-clicked on the web page and I said inspect. Okay, and we got to a website. We go inspect, and then I come out here in the corner here, right? And I change the web page. Right?
I can barely see it.
How's that?
Yeah, then move over to the right.
Okay. So all I did was edit that code directly in the browser.
Got you.
And this was a what they call the Socratic method, right? Which is asking questions, right? So they were like, "Oh, you just hacked the website." Well, did I? Let's talk about that. What does that mean? Well, is this the source code? Well, it's the source code that was sent over from their website. But if I hit refresh, I didn't really change anything, did I? Right.
Right.
So we talk about the difference between the textual representation and the website. Right. So then, I might go out to the command line if I was thinking about things the way you do, and I would curl that.
Right.
Right.
Curl meaning for those that don't know, curl is a command in Linux that allows you to pull back a website, basically like scraping the website, but I'm pulling back the website. And in this case, it'll probably more than likely pull back the index.html file on that site.
Right. So here I want to see that HTML directly. So then we start to have like interesting philosophical questions about, did I just browse the web from this command line experience, right? That brings up interesting questions. So, and then you remember links?
Yep. LYNX.
Right. What if I was going to go? Yes. So talking about that, like, what does it mean to browse the internet, right? I like to go and use like links at the command line. I can run it in Docker. There's another tool that was called Browse SH. Let me see if I can show you that. Links. Here we go. Links is dead. Long live text-based internet browsing. So here's me browsing with a thing called Browse SH. And you see how I'm using text mode. These bring up really hard questions to people that are not used to doing that kind of work. I'm not sure why that one's not coming up. So for me, it's right-click, view source, look at the HTML, think about the philosophy of this kind of stuff.
Right.
And then,
I'll give you give others the context. The context, he again, like he said, he's speaking from a web perspective, right? And when I would talk, I'd be speaking strictly from the command line from a Linux perspective. So these are two different perspectives. And let me clarify this. These are possibly two different career paths, but it could be just one career path.
Right. So let me take this analogy here. There's this mountain of tech that we want to conquer, right? You're tunneling in from one side of the mountain. I'm tunneling into the other side. If you and I were to collaborate on curriculum, we would meet in the center of that mountain. I'm talking about going from the glass of your monitor, from your browser, and tunneling into this thing. And you're talking about going from the metal of the computer and going up until you touch the glass.
Right.
Right. And we could absolutely come to something like that. So you could go and start up a little server and open up a port and talk about TCP and ports, and you'd be listening, waiting for me. And then when I was finally ready to go and type in HTTP, your IP address, something, and then you'd say hello world. And that's where we would meet, in the center of that tech mountain.
Right. And again, like when we talk about tech is so vast. There's so many things. We talked about content creation, and we just gave an example of like, hey, and I tell people all the time, they're like, how I get started in tech. I was like, well, what do you want to start at? You could start with your own journey. Your journey is in describing what you do and how you overcame, that one little thing that kept you from understanding something that you spent 3 days on is a blog, right? That is an actual blog. Even if you just spin it up on YouTube and say, look, in 1 minute. It took me 4 days to figure this out. But here's my steps that I did. Here's where I hit my head at, and here's how I overcame that.
Yeah.
I've
We
been
we
sitting on
always
a
teach
blog
the
post.
importance of journaling. Like journal,
Yes.
just write it down. Write it
Yep.
down, and you'll be surprised what you came through. I know for
Yep.
me, I always tell them that A+ is like a reference book. If you want to know the history of computers and you need to know the parts of the computer and what's this cord called and what's the monitor's called
Mhm,
and how
mhm.
it's transitioned over the years and how it's developed, I said the A+ is the way to go if you're going to get into hardware or anything like that. Of
Mhm.
course, I think you should have it as a reference book, but it's not a place that you have to start at. But
Yep.
then there's others that say, well, you have to have this A+ certification if you want to be in tech.
Okay, so let me ask you all the tough question then, because what do you do when our friends who are watching get caught up in other people's tech nonsense where they're making declarative statements about how you're not a real developer if you don't use Ruby or Bash or Linux or Windows or blah, 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 because everybody's journey is different, right? Like
Mhm.
y'all could have said something that would have been like, if you don't use Ansible, you can't do the cloud or whatever. Like
Right.
any one of those moments could be like, well, I guess I'm not a real programmer. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like there's so
Right.
many people out there that get caught up in the declarative statements. There's some dude on TikTok right now saying declarative statements about how I'm a millionaire and I did it this way. And if you don't do it that way, then that's it. That's his hustle.
No, and so there's a couple of things. I don't know if you're familiar with this. So I'll answer the question and then I'll give you another one. So one of the things that I always try to instill in people is everybody journey is different, but you need to start. What I
Mm,
find is most people don't even start.
yeah.
You'll watch a ton of videos, you'll go attend a boot camp, you'll go sign up for Udacity, Coursera, Udemy, Teachable, YouTube University, and never start.
Yep.
And you're still in the same position where you started from. Then there's some people that take on all the boot camps and never finish and still never move forward, right? So my this is what I learned a while ago was you can either be a T shape or you can be the L shape. And the T shape meaning you can know across multiple domains
Mm-hmm.
of information, but
Yep.
there's going to be that one thing that stands out to you, and you're going
Yep.
to specialize in that. And that you could know about how to recruit, you can know about how to market, you can know about how to do content, you can even know about how to put a robot together and build one from scratch. But there's just one thing that's going to stand out to you that you're going to take off and
Yep.
excel in, and that is going to be the thing that maybe pays you, or maybe you teach that to others. But
Mm-hmm.
then if you had to go into your repertoire, to your toolbox, you could, because you got all these other things that lend towards your
Yep.
development.
100% agree. 100%. Like I mentioned, for the folks who may have stuck around since the very beginning, I've got Fabulous Batman Lego Man on my desk here. And I also have a Swiss Army knife. And I think about that Swiss Army knife. Like the Swiss Army knife, it's a mediocre bunch of scissors and it's kind of a crappy little knife. And it's got it's got all this little stuff. I feel sometimes like I'm a Swiss Army knife. I'm like, well, what am I actually good at? What
Mhm.
am I actually good at? But then I think about that T shape and that L shape. It's like, well, for me, it's C#. Like that's my thing. Like I know a lot about computers, but I got C# is deep, right?
Mhm.
Or whatever. But don't over specialize where you only know one thing, but don't know how to use a computer. And
Mhm.
then don't over generalize where you're not really deep in anything. So I agree with your analysis 100%.
And then also it's where technology is at now. It affords you the opportunity to explore.
Oh yeah.
So everything that people are talking about, go spend a weekend on it. Go spend a couple of hours and research it.
But you
See
got
if
to
it's
move forward, right? You got to do
you have to
something.
move forward. Like see if
Yeah.
it's something that you even want to pursue.
Mhm. Yeah.
And like because I have a web dev certificate, I was just like, that's not my calling. Even though in my dreams, the best web developer ever. I know enough to be dangerous, but it wasn't. Programming is an art. and having that conversation with a programmer is like, it's an art. Like, you need to be in it. You need to be in your zone. And the way I'm perfectionist, I said I would want clean code and all the notes and the colors. And I was like, I'm too OCD for this. It's not my calling.
You know, that's great that you bring that up. We did a thing on my YouTube recently that it'd be fun to watch you two do sometime, where I brought someone on and did some pair programming. So this gentleman here is from Australia, and he's Damien Edwards, and he works on .NET. And he and I had an actual problem, and we wrote the problem up in a notepad.
Oh, you breaking up, Scott?
You're getting staticky again, Scott.
All right, I'm gonna hit refresh. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'm glad you all joined. I hope
know,
we were able
right?
to answer you some of your questions, Ms. Scott.
Okay, is that better?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead and bring the screen back up for me.
What we did was we wrote up the problem set in Notepad. Here's the Notepad here. And we said, here's the problem, right? These two things had changed. And then we looked at the situation, and we brought up and we started writing the code. This is funny here. I wrote down, there it goes. I wrote down a Notepad here. Let me see if I can find it again. I said, Yagni.
Why? I saw that.
Yeah. Right. Yagni means you're not going to need it. You are not going to need it, right? I think I spelled it wrong, actually. And what we ended up doing, we write the code. This is about an hour long, and we write the code all the way to the point where we actually get it. And we talk as friends who have different specializations and different expertise about, well, we could do this. Now, to Dee's point, this would be perfect if we did this. Do we need it? Like, do we legitimately need it? Like, yes, my OCD says spend 8 more hours on this, right? Yes, my OCD says that I need more error handling. I need more logging. But we got it to 80%. And here's the question. Do we ship 80%, right? I got it to work. Or do I spend another week working on it? Now, I've been sitting on the blog post to explain this. I think I ended up writing about 80 lines of code. It works great. It's reliable. It's fine. But then we had a whole conversation about, well, it would be more performant if you did it this way. It only runs 3 times a week. Does it need to run in 6 seconds or 20 seconds? Does it matter? I really wanted to get it working fast. I could make this run in a second. It runs 3 times a week, right? Having those real conversations are as much about tech as it is about the lines of code. People in the comments are like, that line of code could have been that one. But it worked, though.
It worked.
It worked. Like, success is the metric. Right. So knowing that I could make it better, knowing that I could make it faster, knowing that I could make it more reliable was all great. But knowing when to stop is how I knew that I'm productive.
But this goes into actually a conversation of what is it like to work at a startup. So at a startup, it's not about the perfection. It's about producing the end result. Like, I need to produce something for that customer.
Yep.
We're not looking to perfect. We'll iterate over time, right? Because perfection isn't a one-shot thing. If you really want to be real about it, perfection happens over time. Right.
And we call that at Microsoft impact. And what'll happen is someone will say, hey, can you update that web page and make it drop down, or do this web thing? And someone will spend a week on it. And then they'll start to get a sense of, like, why is so-and-so having so little impact? And it's because of the balance between, I wanted to make it perfect. I'm early in career and I wanted it to be perfect. But also, has your boss put you in an environment where you could feel safe making it not perfect? And that gets into some really interesting conversations, right? Because if you're not an old white guy, you might not want to put in B+ work.
Right.
But then your boss might say, you took a week. This should have taken you 2 days. Well, it turns out it was done in 2 days, but you were making it perfect the last 3 days. Does your boss or your management make it a safe environment where you're like, listen, I can give it to you good, fast, or cheap. Pick 2. Right? Do you need it perfect? All right, I'll give it to you in a week. Do you need it done? I'll do it today. Right? But a lot of people early in career don't have those frank conversations with their boss. And then they might have someone saying, gosh, this was really slow, or this didn't do what I needed to do. So we spend actually more time talking about the problem space in our example YouTube here than we did about the actual coding. The coding was about 20 minutes, half an hour.
Right.
But what are we doing here? You know, how many times is this going to run? What kind of problems could go wrong that would cause it to fail when it runs?
People don't
Right.
solicit feedback early career either. They're just like, here's the task. I'm going to go figure it out and go to my corner.
And here's the other thing. I've got a young lady on my team that we hired. She's been here a year. We have never met. That's uncomfortable. She has been in her apartment, like her first job at a big, giant Fortune 500 company, and she's in her apartment. What can we do to make her feel part of the team and like you're doing a great job and get that feedback loop?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody should have to go to work in this environment right now. Right. That's difficult. So really thinking about what that means for people. And then also for us as people who've been in it for a long time. I mean, I think you both know this. We know so much. We've forgotten how much we know.
I don't. I know. I don't. I share.
What do you mean by that?
I don't. Because I share so much, right?
Well, what I mean by I've forgotten how much I know, I mean, I've forgotten how little early in career people know. So I love that you were reminding me 20 times during this great stream, like, hang on, what's that mean again? What's that acronym? Oh yeah. What is that? You know, you're definitely empathetic and you're reminding me to go and dig into that,
right.
You know?
And only because I the questions come back to me, and only because I remember when I was that person, not even looking at YouTube, right? I remember I was that person just in an interview trying to figure out what in the world did that acronym mean, and what are they talking about, and write down the acronym, and then go home and then look it up, and then like, oh, that's what he meant.
And then there's the balance, because I didn't start my tech career 20 years ago. So I asked those questions, like, be sure to, what does this mean? Tell them what this means, because different industries, you can have some of the same acronyms and they mean totally different things. You know, for me at my gig, I'm just like, well, I know I'm doing okay until somebody tells me different, because somebody's always going to tell me when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Like when I screwed it up, I know. But if I don't get any, hey, this week, I'm like, okay, it was a good week.
Right.
it was a good week, because nobody said no, this is not. But I'm a person who asks questions, because things come so fast in a tech environment. Sometimes you don't get a lot of updates. You know that they happened, and you're just like, okay, so what does this mean? Do we have a ledger? Nobody's going to ask me. Nobody's going to provide me with a ledger. So I'm just going to ask you 1,000,001 questions until you're tired of me or provide me the documentation.
How did you feel comfortable, though, to ask the questions? Because a lot of people feel like asking questions is a fail, and I think it's positive.
Well, it's something that we say here all the time. That's how you learn to ask questions. You know, luckily I'm with a person that asks questions all the time, but that's how I learn. Like, for me, my learning style is I need to see it, and then I need to do it, and then I'm going to have my questions. I need a screenshot. I'm basically writing my documentation as I go along, and when I leave that position, I'll have like a guide, a guide on my position when I leave. So that's how I learn. And sometimes the way people relay information is a little different. My company is based out of India, and so there is not only a language barrier but a content barrier in an etiquette barrier sometimes to conversation, where sometimes I'm feeling like they just want to get it out just to say it and like mark off the box. But luckily that I have a work buddy where we're both here in the States, and we just piggyback off of each other, and we're like, okay, what's going on? Let's shrug this forward. But over time, I've learned how to hit different people and get a dialogue going to let them know, hey, I'm on the team and I need this from you.
Yeah.
And it helps me figure out how people work. Some people are on multiple projects. Some people are super busy. Some people are just slow to respond, but they'll get there, and then, you know, having that rapport. But it was hard for me at first, especially in a startup environment, because I worked in person with a whole bunch of guys and we were just blunt. And so I used to get reprimanded all the time because my tone wasn't friendly.
You know, that's really interesting. There's a lot of talk about that idea about like respectability and tone and politics and stuff like that. It doesn't just go across age and gender and race, but culture. Like the Australian guy that I mentioned, Damien, he is blunt. And I started asking around. It's like, well, that's an Australian thing, right? Different cultures interact different ways. And I noticed in the comments of my YouTube when we did the pair programming, people were like, y'all are mean to each other. It's like, well, no, we're developing a rapport. We're learning who each other is. And there were someone was like, I didn't like that he gave you advice about how to do this one piece of code and you did it a different way. That's okay. Like the great thing about advice is you don't have to take it, you know, and the resulting code it worked fine. Like, again, success is the metric. If you're having interactions with someone about a system design or building up something or some IT thing or some code, and they're deeply like their ego is attached to it, then you need to have that conversation. You can tell me my code is crap. I know I'm not crap. Maybe I was having a bad day. You know what I mean? There's lots of things that can go wrong. So that's really difficult though when you're early in career, because your ego does get attached to your code, and it does hurt when somebody says that's wrong, that's bad.
So this goes into another conversation. It's the same thing, but I was on a live, and one of the questions, and I talked about this. I know where I stand with this. I think I know where you stand with this, but I'm going to ask it anyway for the audience. In your career, when you're, let me back up. If you were getting hired and someone, your team found out that you were a diversity hire, and you're working on this team, do you start out with your team needs to like you, or do you need to start out with you need to actually produce? So is it good? Is it something you need to have your team like you, or is it something you need to produce? Like, do you need to produce? And I give you my take, and then I'm gonna let you answer. My take is this: I don't care if my team don't like me. I don't care. I'm here to produce. My team would like me and respect me if I'm producing good work and communicating that work, but you don't have to like me in order for me to give you a good result.
Yeah. So here's a cultural thing, right? Like people don't have these conversations, like, and we're making generalizations, and forgive me if a generalization doesn't land right, but like white people sometimes like making friends at work. Like we have good friends, like we have people that we work with that will come to the barbecue. And when they ask you, like, you have a good weekend? They very much likely really want to know if you had a good weekend. But as a general rule, some other cultures, and sometimes some Black folks, like, I did not come here to be your friend. I came here to work, and I'm going to go it's 5:01. Are we done with this? We are not friends, right? That's a cultural difference. Now, again, big generalization. Everyone's going to, well, yeah, yes, but I get that. But some people come to work to be working and also make friends. And some people came here to get it done. You got to ask yourself, who am I and what works for me? I think it's a combination of about 80% ruthless competence. The number one thing that's going to work at work is knowing what the hell you're doing.
Exactly.
You can't get promoted just by being charming. They will eventually figure out that you don't know what you're doing. Right. So I agree with you. Competence first, and then it doesn't hurt to be friendly. Right. Now, you don't have to be friends. I never said never be friends. You got to be friendly. Right. Right. Be pleasant. Right. But you don't have to. We don't have to be friends. Some people at work started doing this thing where you chat them, and they have a bot that says nohello.com. You know about no hello?
No.
So this is an actual thing here. It's called No Hello. And basically it's like, imagine calling someone, going hello, and then putting them on hold. They're like, don't do this. Don't say hi and then just go away. I don't want to know about your weekend. Hey, are you around? You got a sec? Ping, you there? Just ask the question. We don't need to do the whole thing on Slack or Teams where we talk about how your weekend was. Just ask the question. Some people think it's rude, but by saying no, hello, you're like, listen, hello, do the thing. Hello, commit that code, whatever, right? Those kind of small things.
I'm like, hey, how you doing?
Exactly.
How about this?
Right. Like,
what's going on with that?
We kind of have to keep track of what works for people and what people don't care. If Tamika's saying like, I do not care about your weekend, that's fine. Do I try to change you and make you care about my weekend? No, I'll just say, can we do the thing? Is the meeting still happening or whatever, right? It's amazing how squishy people are in corporate worlds. And
well, the conversation kind of sparked a debate of, do we, if the person isn't liked, then you don't move up the totem pole. And if you are an a-hole, you don't move up the totem pole. And I was like, a-holes get promoted all the time.
So there's a book. Do you know about the no asshole rule? Excuse my French. It's an actual book. Building a civilized workforce or surviving one that is not civilized.
Gotcha.
Right? There's this conversation that people don't really have, which is if you ever have someone where you interview them and they're like, oh, why did you leave your last job? Well, my boss was an a-hole. Okay, what about the job before that? Well, my boss was an a-hole. You go back 4 or 5 jobs and you're like, hey, the last 5 jobs you were at, the boss was an a-hole. Maybe it was you. Like, we need to have that conversation. But the facts are, though, that these bosses do exist and they do get promoted, and we got to figure out how to get them out of power. Because it's not okay. And we have these coders. We've glorified these techies. That you're a techie and you're a jerk. No, you don't get to be that person. You don't get to do both, right? Being pleasant and kind and civilized doesn't mean we need to be friends. You don't need to come to my kid's bar mitzvah or whatever, but you do need to not be a jerk.
Right. And that's why I stress on my end that people really focus on the talent, your skill set.
Can't argue with competence.
Yeah. And then I've been talking to some people on Clubhouse about, you miss the boat when you don't understand the business in which you're working in. And I say that from the perspective of, what are the new clients that they're going after? What's the new work that they're going after? What is the company looking at? Right? Because again, that new business could translate into something that you could be doing, or you could be bringing in business. You just need to understand the business side of it. I think we get caught up in the tech side a lot, but we never know the value of what our tech is doing to provide the business side of it in terms of an ROI.
Exactly, 100%.
And that's my take on it. Now I know we at the top of the hour. I know you got busted in on the last time. Like, what's your time? What time you got?
I got to go 6 minutes ago. My wife is at the hospital. She's a nurse. I need to make dinner for these little boys.
Got you.
And right now I've been basically drugging them with Xbox, and that at some point I become not a good parent anymore. So
got you.
I got to go make dinner.
All right. Well, how can we find you, or how can other people find you on actual social media?
So go to Hanselman.com. My last name is Hanselman. You can remember it like Hansel and Gretel Man. From there, you can check out my blog. I would encourage you to listen to my podcast. It's actually a pretty good show. You can go and check out the episodes like we mentioned before. Search the transcripts. 800 episodes of amazing people talking about amazing stuff. The YouTube, there's also an occasional newsletter that you're welcome to check out. So I'm everywhere. I'm also on TikTok, which was probably a huge mistake, but it's working out so far. And all of us, whether it be both of you in your community or my community, are here to make you win. Right? So if you just met me or you've met Dee or Tamika, you know that we want you to win. So if there's anything that I can do to help you all out, in the Microsoft space, in the open source space, in the social media space. Take a look at all of my different resources. As I know you all do, we do this for love and for passion and for the good feeling of sending the ladder back down and lifting people up. That's really, really important to me. So yeah, if anything I can do to help you all out, just holler at me.
All right, thank you, Scott, and we appreciate you. Go ahead and do your thing in the kitchen. Just don't make the macaroni and cheese and put Velveeta in it.
No, I was gonna do mashed potatoes and do raisins. I'm sure that was cool, right? Everything.
Scott, you know better. You know better, Scott.
All right. I'll see y'all later.
All right,
Thank you.
Scott.
We appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate you too. Bye.
What's going on, everybody? I see everybody in the chat. We appreciate you, Scott, for rocking with us and so forth. Again, the link, D dropped the link. You're more than welcome to come up if you got some questions or what have you. We don't want to leave you out there just without, your question being answered. That's what we're here for. I appreciate all our members that we always get around. From Afri P, what's going on, Professor Black Ops? I did not get a chance to shout you all out there. French and all those that drop questions. Michael Jenkins, I see you. We got to connect most definitely, and do our thing. And we got to get Michael Jenkins on the show actually, to talk about creating content and classes. If you're all on LinkedIn, you can go check out his courses that he's created on LinkedIn. And it's actually Jenkins is one of his courses that he created, right? Carl, we thank you for being a new subscriber, and joining us again. Spread the word. We always want you all to share our info and stuff, and so forth. Okay, cool. I was reading something. All right, and D, anybody backstage? Nobody backstage. Nobody got questions. Nothing.
Aren't you backstage?
You
can see backstage now.
Oh no, I wasn't on the screen. Thank you, welcome, Scott.
Scott, we got to come back soon.
Yeah, Scott got to come back and check us out. No, let me see. And I think I know Afro P say, do you prefer to work for the business or with the business, and alter for the win? Give me a Pulitzer. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Afro P, you can hit Scott up on Twitter, and you can actually ask that question directly too as well. That way you can get the direct answer. He'll probably turn it into a blog, like he said, right?
He had pages. He's been writing that stuff down forever.
Right.
But it's a great concept.
Right. So for those that are new, I'm gonna call y'all out. Judge J, Black Dazzle, Shannon, Carl, I see you, Tracy, LA. You already know what it is. You know I was gonna call y'all out. I see y'all. Is there anything you want to know? I'm telling you, this is your chance to ask. I normally don't even open it up like this.
She does it all the time.
No, I don't. I don't normally don't open up. What is it that you want to know about getting started in tech? Because now is the time to ask. Because once we cut it, and then y'all come and join us in Slack, and then you start asking questions like, "Where do I get started? I don't know." And then I'm just like,
"We saw you on this show. Where is a great place to start?" And I'm just like, "You have not been Slack."
And Emmanuel, I appreciate you for joining. Right? How do you get your daughter start? I don't know. How old is your daughter? It depends on how old your daughter is. Because if your daughter is like 5, 6, 7, 8, you could go with Lego Mindstorms. She's 14. I was gonna say get her started on Linux, but you could. get her started on Linux. Another one is getting down to the basics. You could actually start. Some people do Scratch, but that may be too elementary, too lower level. I want to say at 14, if she's in school and with others, they'll probably start out with a programming language. Uh, I would first start with just like you saw tonight, real simple. If she's got a Windows, if she has a Windows box, have her both of you sit down and install WSL.
And
Simple.
ask her what she's interested in. I
Yeah.
mean, she's 14. I'm pretty sure she has an opinion about a lot of stuff. I would start there first. Ask her, what do you think about tech? I don't know if you're in tech yourself, Denise, but that's a great conversation to have. Like, okay, it's this tech out here. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I saw. Is there anything that catches your eye about it? And
Yeah.
then start breaking it down.
Yeah, and I would like things I would introduce. She's doing some programming. She has a Chromebook from school. She's interested in TikTok and K-pop. Oh, good, even
Yeah.
better. So if she's interested in programming and TikTok and K-pop, you can sit down with her if you know how, and have her write a script to go scrape TikTok for all the K-pop videos and have them download it. Right? Do little things that encourage her to use the skills she already has and the interest that she has too. And then I will also say if she's interested in K-pop, I'll also do a little history on K-pop and look up Motown, where they actually got the blueprint from for K-pop. So she has some history about where K-pop actually gets their, I guess, template from. If you want to get into the specifics of it, but again, we're talking how do you take something that she's already doing and interested in and add on to that, and then you could tweak that and say, okay, well, how fast are you pulling that information back? How long did it take that to actually pull back that information? What's actually going on with the code, and explain it. All right. Yep. Go look up where K-pop actually got the template from, and then check out, do your own history, right? Your own comparison of like,
Because K-pop groups they are I don't want to call them a hustle, but they are a machine.
yeah.
Like
So,
the
but
way they
again,
are ran is a big business.
yeah, but the template comes from Motown, and Motown having a template of how they formed their male artists, and then you start looking at how they got their artists, and then you look at how K-pop, you'll see it was a blueprint there, and so they pretty much took that blueprint and cloned that blueprint and sped up the machine with a little few tweaks, and now you have that. So give it a shot, right? She likes K-pop, but give the history behind it, right? And then document the journey as you do it as well too. Don't just do it, document it. Have her like Scott did, create a vlog for it and so forth, right? So that'll be cool. I love to see that. You can just uh, do a video of it, or you could just have her record her screen and make your own little video. You don't have to go live or anything like that. I know she's 14, so you know you may not want to have her on social media, like that. But to look at social media and to actually be posting your pictures and stuff, that's a little different, right? I'm in the beauty industry. I love creating. I guess I have time to learn a new skill. I would love if I could match the two worlds, if possible. I mean, yeah. So when you say you're in the beauty industry, that's kind of broad, but I'm assuming hair, makeup, nails, skincare, when you're looking at that. So uh, I guess I would look at like how could you, and this is just me, how could you, how can you clone yourself and expand what you're already doing, and how can tech help you do that in a broader sense, right? So how if you want to skill that makeup artist, oh, even better. So that's one. Oh, it should have had JP on here. Um, so let's see. How can a makeup artist utilize what they do in tech? So let's look that up. And while you get to that other question, D, I'm gonna go ahead and look it up real quick because I have an idea of how a makeup artist can skill themselves, but then I also have an idea of um, and this goes sideways. D, do you remember that video we watched where on the Microsoft campus, the lady was a millionaire because she was doing hair on the campus? You remember that?
It was a while ago.
It was a while ago where,
It was a while
but
ago.
like places like Microsoft, um, on their campus. Google has it as well too, where they have actually like a hair salon or nail shop or something like that, where people can get their hair and nails and makeup done on the actual on the actual campus itself. And I think that lady was a millionaire because people will come in and getting ready for uh, a webinar or getting ready to go on stage or something like that, and they want to have something done. Right.
I mean, there's so many things when it comes to makeup in technology that you can skew. Like for me, what comes off the top of my head is like a lipstick color or like any color, like an eyeshadow or a blush. You see it in that color, you like, oh my God, that color is so vibrant, it's so pretty, it's so pigmented. But the way it looks on pale skin is going to be different than it looks on my skin. So sometimes I don't buy things online because I don't know what it's going to look like on my skin tone. And there's a few people that do a swatch, but the swatch is so tiny that you really can't get the effect on it. So to see like a makeup, something where it's kind of like AI, a situation where you see what the makeup looks like or a look. I follow a lot of makeup artists on Instagram, and I'm just like, man, that's so great. But I'm like, how is that going to look on myself? We have hooded eyes, and I'm like, I know that look will work for that, but you can do probably a lot with AI. So I would definitely look in that direction as well because
And
you are in a creative medium.
yep, that's another one. Sell virtual makeup in Meta or makeup tutorials in Meta, right? In the metaverse is another one. But what D is talking about, they do have the VR, AR where you could switch out your skin tones or you could take a picture of yourself and then see how that would look on you. I often wonder like we had this conversation. I think me and you had this conversation. Then we had this conversation that there would be strippers in yeah, we had it in bit. There'll be strippers in the metaverse.
It'll be adult entertainment in the
It'll
metaverse.
be adult entertainment in the metaverse, right? It's gonna be adult entertainment in the metaverse, right? So those are just off the top of my head. Those are just common things that I've seen. And somebody also put that they had that at Facebook as well too, where you can get your makeup done, and so forth. Again, it's tech adjacent, so not everything is gonna be like, oh my god, I'm doing this right in tech. And the other thing is too is um makeup tutorials for tech people. I think it's so huge. I think it's a lost space that never really gets talked about. Like when we go to conferences, like, and we were in person in conference, one of the thing is you're always responsible for your own makeup, right? But it would have been cool to be backstage and have somebody uh get your makeup ready for the lights that you're going to be under and the heat of the lights and so forth that you're going to be under. Sure, I could do it for myself, but it'd be great if I had if the actual conferences had a makeup artist that appealed to multiple genders and races and faces and shapes and sizes that can come backstage, do your makeup real quick, have you photo ready for when you walk out there. Or if not, you're always, doing your own
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, and they do that, and a lot of these conferences they take headshots. Like I took a
Yep.
set of headshots, and the next day I was like, "Oh, I wasn't ready."
Right.
Like,
Yeah, they'll take a
oh,
headshot with whatever you got on, and you're like, "Ooh, I ain't even cute.
right. Oh, I didn't
I
like the
don't
way
even want
this
to
was
use
looking.
that." Uh, FRP asks, "Do you prefer to work for the business or with the business, and what parameters would you create an extra strategy to better ship or upgrade the one that you're on?" It depends on the business. Some businesses are better that you work for them because you get a top layer, a top cover, and then some businesses are better that I work with them because I need the autonomy to do what I need to do in terms of getting the job done. So we may work on a joint venture in order to get the job done. So it depends on what it is. And you said, what is your exit strategy? My exit strategy is gonna always be make the money and as much money as you can.
Project dependent.
Yeah, project dependent, person dependent, cut dependent. If that answer your question. But I mean, I guess I'm searching for what are you actually trying to do? What are you trying to figure out, Afri? Just curious as to there's a reason why.
It sometimes you can be doing both. You can have a full-time job and you can be contracting yourself
Mm-hmm.
out, or you can be in partner, or if you have a side business, you could be in a joint venture or partnership with another company. So it just
Mm-hmm.
you can be doing all of those at one time. So, again, that's project dependent. If you're working a job, then you're a W-2 employee. If you're contracting yourself out, you get your 1099, or if you're if you are have your business and you're working with somebody else, then you guys are getting revenue, and then that's something totally different, as far as structure wise. But project dependent, you know, it may be something where it's just a team in agreement, and you like when we talked to Eric Coffey about government contracting, you get a team in agreement and you guys are forging ahead on these contracts. And once you get a contract, the scopes of those types of things change. So everything
Right,
is project dependent.
right. And the next question is, these days every industry uses tech in some way. Don't think because you're a former or
A
a
farmer.
farmer or a teacher or a beautician, you can't get into tech. You bring your experience with you in tech. Yeah, you bring your business savvy. That's the other thing too, right? Don't neglect your business uh, savviness and your
Your acumen.
ability to lead as well too. Don't discount because it's not in tech, but the question is what is tech, right? What is tech? Like, drop in the comments and tell me what you think tech
Right.
is.
Because just because like you can still work for a tech company and not be technical. Like we have a question on there: former disability counselor, I want to work remotely with limited need to talk because my toddler, I really don't know what tech area I'm interested in, just want a direction to start binge learning. Well, it depends if you want a skill, but a lot of tech companies are looking for people in their HR departments that have specialties when it comes to accessibilities and disabilities. So don't discount your existing experience with that demographic because you want to start something in tech and feel like you have to go entry level. That's not what we I don't want to say condone, but we don't advocate for that. We always want you to build off of your existing experience in order to take yourself to the next level in tech, whether you are technical or work for a tech company.
Yeah, what I want to add is the things that I would start looking at if you want to get a good direction. You can look at pre-sales, you can look at sales, you can look at sales engineering, you can look at content creation. A lot of times, a lot of companies are looking for people to actually get the word out there. So there's customer success, customer experience. That's also dealing with different products. So you can go to YouTube and look up product school, Product School. And then there's also If anything else, it depends on if you want to be really technical. You know, you could get into cloud engineering, you can get into cybersecurity. The sky's the limit. My suggestion would be is figure out, or we could set some time aside where what skills you have now, and how to take those skills that you have now and develop them into a career path, um or uh share what your options are. A lot of times, um again, like I said, drop in the comments what you think tech is. Tech isn't what you think it is. It's so many different
and
ideas.
and and because and just because you have a toddler, trust me, everybody has become much more empathetic in the workplace when it comes to kids because of the pandemic, and so many people had to work from home. But I mean, on my calls at work, it's be all type of stuff going on in the background, and you just put yourself on mute and continue to do what you need to do. You see on Scott, he has a whole teenager that opened the door, and he said he has a red light on his door that says "I'm on air." Kids don't care; they're gonna do what they want to do. But you know, I don't like. I feel like my job is like is it's not a limited need to verbally talk, but you're always talking to somebody because in a remote position there's a communication, so there's always going to be like a Slack. There's always going to be some type of communication channel where you're talking to each other throughout the day. And then if you have to do outgoing calls, if you heard about going the help desk route or entry level type of jobs, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna have to talk a lot unless you are on a email support team or a chat support team. You know, it's going to require you um, chatting it up.
Yep. And Afri said, I personally think, oh, hold on. Got me. I personally think it's a mindset thing where if your value match and treatment is on par with expectation, every ship has a sale date and a dock date, and best be prepared for both. And then he also stated people forget that a business will hire and fire you on your brightest day. I mean, yeah, even if it's your business, you can still get fired from the customer. So, you know, again, it goes back to, are you producing or not? Do you have the skill set or not? All right.
Right.
So that's what that comes down to. When you didn't uh I didn't do anything. Just Jay.
Just Jay, your comments are just now showing up, and I'm looking at both feeds, and I don't see any previous comments.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you didn't get it in. We're not blocking anything.
We block the bots. We're gonna keep it 1,000. We block the
I mean, I'm
bots,
saying
but
what
nobody
I'm
else.
saying we're not blocking anything right now. Like,
Mm-mm.
yeah, we
We don't
didn't
have
block
any.
it.
It's just they actually your comments just started popping up at, if you're in the East Coast, 9:29
Uh,
p.m.
just Jay said, or Donald Watts. Let me at that. Then I get to you, just Jay Tech. How do you apply scientific info? I'm not sure what you mean about that, but I use the scientific method every day. Uh, uh, how do I apply scientific info? I'm thinking about all of the companies, such as the Johnson and Johnson, the Moderna, uh, the therapeutic companies, the telehealth or whatever. Okay, that's your definition, right? Okay, how do you apply scientific info? Yep. Um, yeah, I mean, if that's how you look at tech, I look at tech like scientific. Well, I mean the scientific method, but I get you. What you say, just Jay? You said I took an online test, and it said I am a creative visionary in tech. What does that mean? That means leadership. That means that to me, that means
That
you.
to me, it means that you are an idea person. So you might not necessarily be working on the tech, but the ideas about what can possibly become of the tech. You know what you want, you can see it and visualize it, and then the people coming together to make that vision a reality. But I'm pretty sure you got a report when you took the test. What did the report say?
Well,
That's another
I
question.
look at it like I say as leadership, right? So for me, it could be that you see um, where the company can grow, or you can see what your team needs, and go from there. It could be that you are on a creative team, maybe on a website, maybe on the UI UX side. Maybe you are maybe you're doing research, right? Um, it could be so many things, but it's not the fact. Don't discount the fact that you don't think you're not needed. It's needed. But let's put it like this. And I always give this as an example. When your phone rings, right? When your phone rings, there's somebody that's actually creating the sound for that phone. When you get out your car, those chimes that you hear, there's somebody that's actually sitting there creating those chimes. Right? When you are pushing buttons on your in the car, right, to maybe dial a phone number, or to uh you know set up what it looks like for you to put in your directions to sound or whatever, uh, that that's a job, right? And so you got to remember that every little piece makes up a product, and that product is being sold to you, right? So I don't know if you all remember, uh you remember back in the day where you could create your own ringtones and your own voicemails. Remember back in the day, you used to be
In the
like
early 1900s.
the early 1900s.
Yeah,
Yes.
early 1900s.
Yep. So yeah, it said, yep, front end developer, UX designer, user research. Just like I said, web design. Yep. Yep. Those are all possible. Those are all
Oh, so
possible jobs.
it came up with actual job roles.
Hmm. And some of those classes right now are free
Hmm.
to get into, and get certified in them, or some, depending on who it is, get certified and get a job in them. Yep. Yeah, and for me, from everybody, like I'm the total opposite of Afri P. He's like, it's not about making the money, and for me, it's about this. It is about paying me for my skill set and my craft that I'm working in and working towards, and then taking that and having the ability, and I said it on the live stream earlier this morning, when Anton was talking, having the ability to take what you have created, your in terms of your skill set and craft, and have that make the most money that you can make with it, and then taking that money and creating something else in terms of another revenue stream, buying a property or whatever the case may be. But you perfect it so much, and again, you don't have to be, and it's a bad term, you don't have to be a one trick pony. You can be a pony and have multiple tricks. Right?
Trick pony. You go tricky pony.
You're a tricky pony,
You
right?
a tricky pony. But also that being being indispensable, that's like a double-edged sword, right? Because sometimes people make themselves indispensable where they are like the bottleneck, like
Yeah.
your coworker when you were in Sarasota, and he was invaluable, but he kind of had everything rigged up where people couldn't work without him, but then he couldn't have a life outside of the job either, because he was always fixing on stuff or rigging the stuff up where he just pigeonholed himself. And so it was just like he was indispensable, but then he couldn't do anything outside of the job.
But you
And
know what?
then once the job needs other skills, it's just like, well, you're no longer indispensable because we need something else, and you're a one-trick pony.
Yep. And then the other piece to that is because you become so indispensable, um, you are a single point of failure for the company. So that doesn't even look good for the company. So yep, sounds like Brent in the Phoenix Project. Exactly. It's
Right.
exactly what Brent was. Brent was a one-trick pony or a tricky a trick.
Well, he was a one-trick pony.
Right. So that's just one of those
And
things.
I mean, it sounds good, and it you want it, but at the end of the day, when you know your stuff and you're indispensable because you can take it anywhere. Somebody fire you, you're like, okay, because the business might need for them to downsize. It might not be about you. It might be that your salary is in a range where it's like, hey, if we cut this one person, we might free up some funds in order to survive another couple of months or buy this equipment or something else, and we bring somebody else junior on and train them up, and they put themselves in a situation, but you can go about your business and get you another job.
Yeah, it is about Donald Watts. It is about, well, I put it like this. For the company, it's about making the money. I mean, I need money to pay you. So, you can slice that 5 million ways there, if you want to. Let's see. Would you say, women lens? What is the odd and the subtle disdain for asking for the bags? I don't know. Um, I say it like this: it's not a gender war thing. I don't want to make this a gender war thing. Um, I only let's say this. Let me say it this way: 75% of the time, I hear from men, it's not about money, and the other, uh, and then from the women are like, pay me. And so I don't know if it comes down to that the men are always getting paid and the women are always getting underpaid. And so the women are like, no, it's about the money for me. So I don't know. I don't know. For me, I always go back to this. Stack your skills so that you can go wherever you want to. You can take a break whenever you need to because you stacked up enough money and made enough money to do and move however you want. Do you get that year one? I don't know. Depends on how good you are. But can you get that year five, year 10, year 15? Absolutely. Can you take a break? I was just talking to Dennis earlier from sans.org, and we were talking about, he's like, you were talking about taking another exam, and he was like, you think you could probably take off like maybe a month or 2 months from work and then just study those 2 months to take the exam so that you can get where you need to go, right? So you can get the certification that you want to take and go from there. Um, but again, with that being said, is are you in a position enough where you can say, I'm taking off a month or 2 months from work. I'm not worried about any of those paychecks. Um, I'm not worried about uh whether or not I got the time off. I'll take paid time without leave. I mean, yeah, leave without pay, and then go do your thing. So the question becomes is how do you position yourself where you don't tire yourself out or you're keeping your mind fresh in order to do that. All right. So that's just something that I have seen. The other things that I have seen too is just with us in general when it comes to money, it is a it is fear. um And I don't know if it comes down to um if you have money, you might get shot and killed. Or if somebody's found out you got money, you might get shot and killed. Or if somebody found out you had money, they gonna rob you. Don't let nobody know. You have money, so you can't live like that, right? And to each his own. Everybody gonna live how they want to live, right? You gonna. Some people are flashy, some people are not. Some people are pseudo flashy. All right, so I don't know. Like it's a it's such a it's such a fragile conversation. But I just could tell you from my experience what I have experienced. Like, oh no, it's not about the money. But I'm like, when you find out you're underpaid, it is.
Because I mean, it takes the same energy to get $30,000, $50,000, $100 to $200,000. Like you putting the same amount of time in for both, for all of the things. So you might as well ask for it and do your research. I think part of that fear is not knowing. All a person can say is no, and then you can make your informed decision from there. For me, I think for me, asking about money and having conversations about money came early for me because I was rewarded with money. I was rewarded with money from my dad. So if I got A's, I was getting $100 an A. So it came to me fairly early. Like if I performed well, then I was going to get some money. So I learned how to negotiate about my money earlier, and a lot of people know it in me because they're like, "D is gonna count those numbers up." And I've, being an entrepreneur, it's like, shoot, I need this check. Like this work is this check. This is what I need to cover these things, to cover employees, to cover, processes, procedures, putting people in place. So when you look at the bigger picture, it's important. And so whatever fear that may be, it's ultimately going to just affect you in the long run, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not asking for those things, because then it goes to this thing where people talk about they don't value you at work, they don't value you going in there to do a job. Like it's really not about value in that sense of who you are as a person. It's valuing your skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Like they value that skill set. You can be cool, like we just talked about. You can be friendly. You can be a ray of sunshine, but showing up and doing the work and being on task and hitting those numbers, that speaks volumes. And then as that happens, you could be able to renegotiate or move on.
Right. And just Jay, you got to join us in our Slack group. You can drop the link, or you can go to womeninlinux.org and hit connect. The Slack, it'll ask you with an email address. You'll need the Slack app, and you'll sign in. And there's nothing but free content in terms of training and who's hiring and who has scholarships. I mean, it's a ton of stuff. I'll be posting links for days on this YouTube channel. Um,
Because you'd
it's
be
similar to
disappointed
this.
waiting for a company to value you. You be sitting up there complaining that they don't value you.
It's similar to Discord, so um, you can check it out. What's going on, DB Daryl? How you doing? Yep. It's a byproduct, much like petroleum jelly is a byproduct of drilling. Yep. I hear you, Just Jay. Again, it depends on what on how much effort you want to put into it and so forth. I got one from left field for you. What's your take on all software engineers taking nootropics? I don't know what nootropics is. Check them out. Nootropics. Help them get in
Yeah,
there. What
Google
is
it.
nootropics?
Is
Oh, is
it?
that some kind of
It's some new drugs.
I don't know. No, $100 one I see.
Is it like Adderall?
It's a smart drug that can boost the brain performance. Why you can't just eat something?
Eat a carrot.
I
Go eat a carrot.
have no idea about this. Uh, Wouldn't say
Modafinil,
yeah, I don't know none about
Allergen.
these.
They work well in moderation.
Yeah, I don't know
I
none
don't know
about these.
anybody using neutral. I mean,
Y'all come school me because I don't know because I read all the time, so I don't know about this. Drinking caffeine like the rest of
people
us.
drinking caffeine. What is
I
those they
drink
doing?
water.
What they have a lot of these places here. Kava. It tastes
Hmm.
like
The kava shots.
boiled rock water.
Kava shots.
Kava tastes like dirt. Kava, and it
And
was something else.
Cratamin is a Cratamin.
Yeah, kratom. Kratom. Yes.
Yeah.
Seeing all the rage. What? Where have I been?
Yeah.
Yeah, some of that stuff. I agree with
I know you
everything.
get a
Drinking some coffee.
shot of kava. What's it called? Is it called kratom?
Yes, kratom.
I know I'm spelling it wrong. There you go.
I think it's a K, KRAT.
Yeah, kratom right here.
I mean, for me, everybody's makeup is different. And so what you need, like for me, sometimes, you might need a pick me up. Caffeine works for me. But it's all on your hormones. Different people need different stuff.
It says these leaves were also used as an herbal remedy to treat various illnesses, including coughing, diarrhea, diabetes, and high blood pressure. They were likewise used as a substitute for opium, a potent pain reliever, for
I had some of
opium
that
withdrawal.
kratom, and it took a while for it to kick in, but that stuff will give you the runs. That stuff sitting up there, and people are drinking it. They even like bringing your own jug, like they're bringing in jugs full, and people are just sipping it throughout the day, and it's disgusting. They make your tongue numb and everything. It's crackish. I don't know what crack tastes like,
Well,
but
yeah, how you know it's
it's
crackish?
crackish. I seen people on crack.
Or whatever. I use them, and it's safer and more effective than caffeine. Which one do you use, DB?
And what we're talking about is that kratom.
I don't know. And said this is
Use them and
a
they're
real thing.
safer and more effective than that caffeine.
The guy that kicked off Bulletproof Coffee got this started. I don't know. I'm from the late 1900s. I don't
I
know.
don't know. My grandmother, she used to take little caffeine pills. They were called PEP, but she was an
But
overnight
you can get
nurse.
caffeine pills over the shelf, like Kevin David, like, man, nah, I'm with you, Kevin. Like, I ain't doing all that.
It is real crackish.
Nah,
I remember
I'm
that
good.
movie Limitless. I mean, to each his own. You know what I'm saying? To each his own. I think anything could be addictive. I mean, they'll tell you it's much safer. I mean, people, you got to do your own due diligence about your own
D
drugs. Like,
D
it
D
will work for you.
D.
But
You sound like a pusher. Just want you to know.
I don't push no. I'm
You sound
saying
like
people
what
do.
I'm
That's
saying.
all
What
doctors
I'm saying
do.
is, you sound like you from Ice T. I'm your pusher.
No, that's
Like
what the
you, like you,
doctors
like
do.
you,
They
like
give
you
you these
saying.
prescriptions, and they like, how you feeling? How was you feeling? How did it
D,
make you
you
feel?
sound like a
Well, maybe
pusher.
this might work. That's what they do.
D, you sound like a drug deal gone bad. Don't do it.
Hey,
It's like crack, but with none, with other than none
oh,
niggas.
I don't want
Nah.
none of that. I don't want none of that. If it's like crack with none of the side effects, I don't even want that.
It's crack, but with none of the niggas that telling an American to do something in moderation. I know, right? It's like a magic pill that is probably a placebo, but in my mind it works.
I mean, shoot, you drink too much water. I mean, shoot, too much water, you'll drown. So everything is in moderation. It just depends on what you doing. If it's safe for you. But I don't think I want nothing that's. I mean, I know people don't crack,
The iced tea, iced D, iced D, iced D,
I don't even want to be sitting around here crack-ish.
iced D, iced D. We're gonna reel you back in, iced D. Reel you back in.
I'm just saying. I've seen the effects of drugs. I'm from the
I,
Rankin area. I've seen the brain on drugs.
Ice
Questions.
Ice D. I'm your that's right, DB there. I'm your pusher. But I think that's all we had tonight.
Is it? You know,
Yeah,
you go on to the break of dawn. You must be going outside. You going outside?
Nope. Going downstairs to eat my
I don't
food.
believe
That was
you. Tam is
a
going
house
outside.
and Cole gonna house and yeah. I ain't going outside.
House and
I don't
Cole
I
gonna
don't
be
I don't I
doing
don't I
what?
don't want I don't feel like putting on no mask to deal with Flo Rida and Amarion and the OG. I'm good. No, I'm good. You going outside? It's first Friday.
I went outside already today.
It's first Friday though.
I went outside already today.
It's first
I've been
Friday.
outside 2 days in a row.
They got the whole street blocked out for you. They know you
A
coming.
whole street of Amaracron. Amaracron.
That's right. Ice D. That's right.
I don't want none of that. I don't want no Ice D. I don't want no
Just
Ice
know Ice
D.
D is you.
I don't want none of that.
But you are
I'm
Ice D.
saying.
You are one. You are Ice D.
I'm Ice D.
Yeah, you are the supplier.
Of
You're the supply
technology.
chain. Ice D. Well, coming to the stage, Ice D.
Hey, do what makes you happy.
What's that, D? Is that Kratom?
Is it Kratom? It is water.
Water. That's dirt. That look like feed the children water.
It
What
looks
is
like
that?
what?
Feed the children water.
It looks like
that look like
dirty
feed
fish
the children
water.
water.
In my cup, dirty fish cup.
D,
It
what's
is
that?
chlorophyll in my water.
Okay, chlorophyll. There you go. There you have it. Chlorophyll.
It's chlorophyll in my water because it's an interior deodorizer, so it helps you be fresh and balanced and keep you alkaline.
Iced tea. That's what she said.
But I bought some liquid zinc, and I opened it and I don't think I can take it back. But what this tastes like, and I don't even know what it tastes like, but it's probably like licking 5,000 rocks.
Why you gonna just eat some spinach?
Well, zinc is for immunity, and I brought some because it I like liquid form or anything, and you just put it in your shake or your water or something. It's nasty. It's nasty. It's nasty, and I just put a drop like on my hand, and I taste it. It's nasty.
Everything is nasty to you.
No, it's disgusting. This is absolutely disgusting. It even say on here to They say you need to take it with juice to mask the concentrated mineral flavor. It said we recommend, due to the concentrated nature of this product, we recommend spreading the serving size throughout the day and taking it on a full stomach. But it's the most bioavailable and absorbable form of zinc. Because I don't want Omarion and his brother and cousins in. I'm just gonna have to learn how to take it.
You look so stressed out.
I am stressed out
Why don't
about
you
it
just
because I
drop? Why
was
don't you just
excited
drop it
about
in a
it.
smoothie? Just drop it in a smoothie like you do everything else.
No. I can't have a whole smoothie worth of that taste.
No, I'm just saying, just drop some in the smoothie.
What I'm telling you, are you reading the comments? Like, it is ruin the smoothie. You can't sit and drink a smoothie full of this stuff. Like, you just gonna have to just drop it in the back of your throat and swallow it.
What you just doing? A couple of drops, right?
Just Jay is on that BS.
Drop, drip.
That's a pusher. No.
Drip, drop.
No.
That's all.
No. Yeah, it's like licking 5,000 rocks. Maybe it's disgusting.
That's why you so it's such an exaggerator.
Just Jay Taylor. Who else got it in the house? Sharon got some. How do y'all take it? It don't smell like nothing, but it takes it.
I swear you so dramatic.
I'm not dramatic. I'm being honest. Just because it's healthy for you, don't mean it tastes good.
You
This
said
is not
I
very
I got that one. It's not cheap. I
But
take
you know what? Even
take
the
a
pigs are
straight shot.
nasty.
Hmm?
I can deal with the stuff, and that is okay. I can deal with stuff, and that's just it's just nasty. Okay,
Donald Watts, don't tell me you got stories.
I'm not being dramatic.
Just Jay, we don't believe you. You need more people.
Look at Sharon. She like disgusting.
We
Yeah.
don't believe you. You need more people. You and
And I can
Sharon,
drink
y'all
some,
need
and
more
I
people.
drink salt water flush with too much salt in it. And if you can drink a salt water for a salt water flush, you're a savage.
Yeah, I can drink salt water for a salt water flush. That's easy.
No, you with the no, with not with table salt. You got to do it with the Celtic gray salt.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't be sipping on this. I agree. I'm gonna give her something when she get back. Then she gonna tell me I'm trying to kill her.
No, I would never tell you trying to kill me. I know when you trying to kill me. But
When
that
am I
right
trying
there,
to kill you?
well, that right there, that's cool.
When am I trying to kill you?
Yeah,
With
she could
orange
drink it
juice?
with orange. She could take a drop with orange juice. She be so dramatic about stuff. I swear. You ever,
I'm just gonna
you
give her
ever
some
seen
when
you?
she
Do
get
you
back
remember?
home, and
Anyway,
then I'm gonna tell her to give y'all an update.
y'all
I don't
remember
even want to
when
drink it in no orange juice. I'm gonna drop it and then wash it down with something.
you remember when you was a kid and your mom would take you to get your hair pressed, or your mama would do your pressed, and before she get to your head, you be screaming and falling out the chair.
Oh, my mama was a burner. I knew it was gonna come. I had to,
That way.
you had a Vaseline jar. My mama would hit it all the time. Ding, ding. I have a burn right here by my bangs and one on the back of my neck. My mama was a burner. It was already coming. It was trauma.
No,
It'll ruin the whole smoothie.
whatever. You had too much fruit in your smoothie for it to be ruined.
This is the people. This is not even me.
You have too
Chlorophyll is
much fruit.
delicious in
You
water.
had too much fruit in your smoothie to be ruined.
I'm gonna let you have some. I ain't gonna keep arguing with you. Chlorophyll was taste. I thought it was gonna taste. I thought this zinc was gonna taste like chlorophyll. Fool me.
Yeah, you be right. Yeah, she have it all in there. She got frozen bananas, strawberries.
I don't eat bananas.
I'm talking about in mine.
You just get
Strawberries,
strawberries and bananas, raspberries.
all the berries. It's a bag of
You get all the berries. You get a
the
medley. You
bag
get the
says
berry medley
berries. The
and a
bag says
banana.
berries, a banana,
You get some flaxseed. You
some
get some chia
flaxseed,
seed because you be
chia
hungry.
seed, and
You get some oat.
it
You get some oats. I have powdered oats. Like I blend oats. You have some oats in there. Keep you full. Regular. Little agave. I'll be hooking you up.
she be putting put it like this. We've gone through 3 blenders. I don't know how. Yeah, it's a liquid fruit salad. We've gone through 3 blenders, and I be having my meetings at 1 o'clock. And she'll be in there and talking about, oh, it's time for my feeding. I'm like, girl, it take you 40 minutes to make a smoothie because you been out.
It's my meal replacement. It's my break. I break my fast. It needs to be delicious. If I'm breaking my fast from intermittent fast, it better be delicious. It needs to be like how I want it.
Good
It
God.
got all my stuff in there.
No, and then the blender be like the blender be like, child, please, I can't blend no more shit. I can't do it. This ain't it.
Well, those blenders that get is from 10 years ago.
No, they
They doing
won.
good.
No, they won.
I mean,
You the
they
only
work.
person
I
I
brought
know.
them out
You
of
the only
retirement.
person I know that can go through a Ninja 9000.
That wasn't my fault.
You the only person I know. Yeah, you gotta get another blade. No, she don't need no blade. She may
No, it
need
was the mechanism in the blender. It stopped blending the small cups. It'll blend the big blender and the what do you call that thing? The Cuisinart type of thing. But I got a new one. Sam Instacart delivered me a new one. But I just don't use it for blending. I use it for
it ain't gonna be around
Cuisinarting.
but a week.
I use it for juicing.
It was a Vitamix.
It was
That's what
not
I'm
a
saying.
Vitamix. We don't have no
I
Vitamix.
did have a Vitamix.
We do not have a Vitamix.
I had a Vitamix.
Yeah, not here.
I bought a Vitamix and a
No,
Ninja.
it's another foreign language name that is a juicer, but it's not a Vitamix.
No,
A
that's the
Vitamix is a
juicer.
blender.
That's the Cuisinart.
Why don't you Google what a Vitamix is?
I know what a Vitamix is.
What is it?
It's a blender.
Okay, we don't have one of those.
Yeah,
we got a Ninja
we had
instead.
them. We had them at work when we was competing against each other at work to see who was going to lose the most weight. It was me, Steve, and Mike.
She don't do no blending. I don't know what she complaining about. She don't do no blending.
I do.
No, my fruit is frozen, so I don't need ice. I freeze fruit.
So here's a question. There's a question I have. How do y'all study? We know you got the what's this stuff over here? Kratom and this kava and that other
It's
stuff.
Nutanix.
How are y'all studying? And Just Jay, how you gonna get started? That's the real question.
I don't know. Y'all got me curious about this other stuff, but yeah, I don't know.
Cause you a pusher.
I'm not a pusher. I bought some brain stuff
I'm your mama. I'm
from the
your
health food
daddy
store. It didn't work.
in that alley.
But
A
also
true
rest has
friend.
a lot to do
You
with it.
know
So
me.
if you're not getting good rest, I don't recommend pushing your brain beyond capacity and you're
You
not sleeping and you be up for days.
Cause I'm your pusher. What do you know about AZURE and totally different bio? I don't know nothing about it.
It wasn't directed toward you.
I know. You said how to get started. You got to join Slack first. I gave you the
It's
page.
a whole article on getting started.
I bet you do hurt getting back into it, Sasha. You've been lacking. I've been watching you. You've been lacking. You ain't been to the meetup. I ain't seen you post no stuff.
I'm about to start my whole GCP all over again.
Sasha, I've been watching. Yep, Slack is an app.
You can use it on the web browser as well, but I don't recommend you using Slack on your phone because you're only gonna see a portion of it.
They said check out Scout the City on YouTube. Never saw more Beverly Hill level smoothies.
You know, some stuff. I mean, I got so many things, but I will definitely check out Scout the City. I try to go with what is accessible. I based on what I can get my hands on. I've been looking for deliveries, services that deliver some good stuff. But I mean, I can literally if it's in the smoothie or I can make it into a soup, I'll be fine. Smoothies and soup.
That's right, Iced D. Too cold, too cold. Hold up. So I put in my email address and download that app called Slack. That is correct. And if you're on your desktop, it'll open up in the desktop too. Yep, we had kale.
That's why if it's a smoothie or a soup, it's like it's the best. It's the best meal prep ever. Like smoothies and soup. Like because with smoothies, if you meal prepping and you got to go out somewhere, you can always pre-bag a smoothie and just put them in the freezer and pre-bag it and just throw it in there. And a soup, the same thing. You just throw a whole bunch of stuff in the pot, a crock pot, let it simmer, and then hey, you can have you some soup.
I see all y'all that joined. I'm giving y'all a shout out in Slack now. I can see you. I can see clearly now. Lorraine is gone. Literally, Tam, I just printed out at RC. It's a Rust binder full of reference stuff. So relieved that was yep. again, if you're not a, we're all about making that journey. I saw somebody posted earlier about getting the 200K. That is correct. I think Sherelle had posted that.
Sherelle says she is here for the 200K. She's getting it.
Yep, let's go. If I start out the day with a good spoon that keeps me right for the day, we'll start the day with something goofy.
Right, because your body is all the energy in your body now is going to digest the food that is in your stomach. Like today, what I had, got some grapefruits that came in, like they like oranges. Had me 2 grapefruits and I was on. And then I made myself some oatmeal for lunch. It was delicious.
I had scrambled eggs and turkey sausage sandwich.
Did you cook for your mother this morning?
No, I cooked this afternoon and she didn't want anything.
Because it was too late.
No, she just didn't want that.
Oh, sounds familiar.
Yeah, she just didn't want that. All right, people, I am going. We'll be live tomorrow at 11:30. Tomorrow will be tech stocks and jobs, and then at 2 o'clock we'll do the show. At 4 o'clock on Saturday, we will not be live, but we will be doing the Rust class. If you want to be a part of the Rust class, then you can um, um, join the Slack channel, which has Rust in it, and then we'll go from there. And if you are, I don't know, I may go back live a little later on. I think I don't feel like hearing everybody argue tonight.
You not going over in the manosphere tonight?
It ain't the manosphere that I be in. That's what
Where
you
be at? Hey,
I don't know why you keep thinking I'm in the manosphere.
I don't know where these people. I don't know where these places at. I'm just
don't
talking.
say what you don't know. Then
shoot, I'm saying I'm just talking. I don't know where these people at, but they be talking some foolishness wherever you be.
No, don't say don't what you don't know.
What is it?
It could be
in the community. Where you be?
Well, it could be the one lady who's the CEO truck driver. She was on last night and they were talking about how to get business credit and business loans and how to set up your LLC. Things that we talk about. I was listening to some of the people who had went through the Series 65 to become an accredited investor. And go that where I be at. I be all over. Sometimes I'm in one place and then I be like, I don't want to hear this.
Wide Web. I don't know where she could be at. Y'all look out for her. Make sure she's safe. She be out here giving the people hell.
I don't give nobody hell. I just speak the truth, and it should set you free. Right? Yeah, 200K goals. Yep. I don't know nothing about. When I see no tropics, all I see is goof troop. But I be like, oh, that look like something from Goof Troop. Don't do it, Trey. Don't do it. Don't order it. Just work out. Get you something. Get you some fresh air. Relax. Let your mind be free. Don't do it. Don't do it. And don't buy it from D. Don't buy it from Ice D.
I'm about to write down all the stuff and spin me up an Amazon store with all the tech crack.
I hope this don't. I hope.
I'm gonna get the mud coffee, the mushroom coffee, the kratom, the kava. I'm gonna get all the cracks. But I'm too busy to even research.
You need to start a store.
That's what I'm saying.
No, not that. Remember I showed you last night. So check it out. So this is, and then I'll let y'all go. This is just funny. So I was on Rent-A-Center, right? And I didn't know on Rent-A-Center you can get handbags.
Oh wait, I'm about to choke.
What? Oh, is my screen being shared?
The reason probably why your things weren't showing up. It looked like he got 2 profiles on
So check this out. Did you know you can go to Rent-A-Center and get handbags? Did y'all know that?
You can go rent
A
Michael
handbag.
Kors purse for $42 a week.
You can go rent a handbag. This handbag right here. Did y'all know that? And look, I'm gonna put in a zip. Let's make that my store. That's right. Check it out.
Of
For
$19.99 per week.
for $19.99 a week. Look, same as cash, $515. But if over 43 payments, it's gonna be $859, right? But check this out. We're gonna put the same bag in. We're gonna put the same bag in. I'm gonna show you how much that bag costs. Look, they got this one right here. It's this one. Same bag. It's $358.
Yeah,
So
you
all
out here default on your Michael Kors tote bag. I can't. I cannot. I can't. I really can't. Like, and for it to be on the site, somebody is buying it. Like
so
somebody has
this
rented
what I'm
it.
getting ready to say. Don't let your man trick you thinking he went and got you a bag and he got it from Rent-A-Center. Don't be tricked. Don't be tricked. For $19.99 a week, he's still
I'd rather,
paying
if
on
you
that.
can't afford it, I'd rather you just go to the consignment
So
store and
here's what
Never
I'm
Get
saying.
Wood and get you one.
And let's go for the women too.
TJ Maxx.
Don't be out here frauding. Don't be out here frauding. Talking about y'all got y'all new Gucci bag or new Michael Kors bag, and y'all out here paying $19.99 a week on this. And then in 43 weeks, 43 payments. It's only what, a week? So it's what? How long is that? For 10 months. Oh, a little bit over 10 months that you paying for this. All right. And estimated delivery is in 1 to 6 weeks.
Do they have anything above a Michael Kors? I mean, I know Michael Kors is considered a luxury brand, but do they have any other
Uh,
bags? Or are they just like, you don't get this hot Michael?
I don't know. Let me go look. I don't know. I
They
just
gonna
tried to.
come repossess your bag. You're gonna be outside and your
You're
bag
gonna be
is
out
gonna
at
be
the
hanging
club,
off your
and he gonna be
chair,
like,
and
"I'm
you're
gonna."
gonna look up and your stuff is gonna be on the floor
He gonna
because
be
they
like, "I need
stole your bag.
that." I'm gonna
That's
need
how
that
me and my
bag.
best friend used to do it at in high school. We would get a new purse, and she was like, "Oh, I like that bag." I look up, my bag be missing, her bag be there, and all my stuff be in my back seat of my car. I was like, "Thief!"
I don't see, but I just thought I saw that, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you can rent a phone."
They gonna repo it, Kelvin. They gonna repo your bag. Did you hear me? It's gonna be up on the seat, and you're gonna look up, and your stuff is gonna be on the floor. They gonna repo it.
You can get an
Repo
electric.
your Michael Kors.
You can get an electric bike. Rent-A-Center that came up. Rent-A-Center was like, you can do one stop shopping here. Sherelle, you can get you a Michael Kors bag. But this is what I was saying. This is what I was going with it last night. I was like, all the stuff that y'all have, make you a store and start renting it out. That's what other people been doing. Rent your stuff out. You can rent your stuff out. That's what they doing. Did you know?
Look, they got a little kid's car. What if you was in the park with your baby and then somebody came and scoot your baby off and ran off with the car, got in the car and just ran off with it? They didn't repo your baby Jeep.
Yeah, Rent-A-Center is running a long con. Um,
That's like the check cashing place.
Let me see. I'm just going through this is all deals that I'm looking at. I just wanted to bring this up. So in case y'all see somebody
But
out.
I mean, Donna Watts, if you got a Michael Kors bag from Rent-A-Center, what if you trying to get your credit up or you trying to establish credit? You might be like, at least I'm gonna spend the money on something I want.
Yeah, just the Michael Kors Nouveau. Let me see. Let me go to details. Let me see. It's coming up.
The pawn shop rent luxury bags too.
Now this one, it costs to own in a year. You can have your Michael Kors bag in a year. Now let's go look up and see how much it costs. Let's go.
I'm telling you, Donald. You got to look positively at some
It's
of these things.
$498 for the bag on Rent Center. It is same cash, $717 on here with some tax. With 520 at Rent Center, you still paying like it's the real like this the game to me. Like what's his name say?
It
Like
sounded like what's the
country
name?
this the game to me. This to come up in the city, right? This is in the city, right?
Country Wayne. That's what it is.
Right. But
Oh
but
no,
over
man.
time, you be done paid $1,200 for this bag, right?
I'm gonna go buy me some tables and chairs and go rent some stuff out. I'm gonna get me a warehouse. Who wanna go in with me?
That's just what I said. Get some tables and chairs, get some just like, hey, come get you a Michael Kors bag. You can rent it. Boom. What y'all saying now? The little kids bikes, yep. Yep, been having an attitude. Microwaves. What I didn't see was I didn't see dishes.
Oh, and then they got those places where you can rent rims for your car.
I know you
Rent-A-Wheel.
got the rims. You definitely paying 3 times. Even if you just paying cash, you paying 3 times. Even if you paying cash, power tools, generators,
Shoot, if you got
dishwasher.
to go out in the world and you don't have no money, you might as well just get it and then take it back. I mean, you just renting it till you get your own stuff. But I
don't
wouldn't
know.
want to rent to own nothing from there.
They got careers though in Florida, Texas. Do a search. Um, let's do search. I just want to see what kind of jobs they got. Oh, I gotta put in something. Let's
I would
put
hate to
in
be the rent-a-center
Texas.
repo people.
Let's put in Texas. And hit search. Okay, they got assistant manager, customer support. Somebody got to run they look, they
What
got
tech jobs they
Salesforce.
got?
They got Salesforce. Those are the tech jobs they got. Uh-oh. Let me see. They got multiple jobs. Who are their buyers? Who they go out and say we're gonna put Michael Kors on Rent Center and do a whole markup like even the markup on the markup is high.
Probably like, Auntie, you can go get your Michael Kors from the TJ Maxx. You don't have to do that.
But what if a man is like, my baby gonna be proud of me? Are you okay if your man came home with a bag from Rent Center and
Like we
and
say about being a diversity hire, how would you know?
how would you know in the city?
Woo! Shit. How would you know? How
In the
would you know
city.
it's from Rent Center? How would you know?
I know bags
How would you
on Rent
know?
Center is crazy. I saw it last night. I thought it was hilarious that the bags was on Rent Center last night. I mean, how much is that bag in real life? Like, and it was still you just saw that big markup, right? The markup is the bag is $498, and they got you spending $1,200 to buy it out. What? Insane. Blasphemy.
I'd rather just not have no bag. And you cannot work the controls.
I wanted that view.
No,
I like that view.
no.
You're
I'm gonna
not the
change the
boss.
password on you.
You're not the boss of me.
But I am.
You say they took it back from someone
And
else,
rent
and
it again. That's the
they
game.
are. But you know what I saw? They even selling used furniture at Rent Center now. You can go in there, and there's like the mattress. Like, oh yeah, they probably had it like a week. Run it back.
I mean, that's what you're getting if you go to the front, the liquidation places, the hotel liquidation places. That bed been laid on. That chair been laid on. That lamp been turned, the little knob. All that stuff is used gently. When you go buy a car from the rent-a-car place, they like, what you gonna do? At least, what's that place? The Salvation Army sanitize it for you before they sell it to you.
You right, Kev. It's getting real out here, and I'm just
It
trying to
ain't
figure out.
getting it is.
I'm just trying to figure out, like how you even survive. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Car rentals are up 39%. The price of beef is up. No, gas is up 51%, and I think beef was 39. And then car rentals. No, which one was it? It says one of them. They both up. They both up, but one was 39% and the other one was 51%. At the end of the day, don't go to rent a center and get your girl a handbag if you ain't gonna make all the payments. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to let you know. Don't let your girl see the receipt,
You better pay it.
and don't be out and about. Don't be at the Steve Harvey show with your handbag rental. Now y'all gonna have me looking at everybody Michael Kors bag. Is she written that?
Tacky. You just so tacky.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yep.
Well, nobody came up. Nobody's here. It's
I
Friday.
know, man. I'm starting to think they don't like us, D.
That's not what I believe. I believe don't nobody even want to get dressed. People be eating their oxtail. It's Friday. People in here eating fried fish and French fries. They in here in their
Look, they trying to
pajamas
stay
with their
fresh and
bonnets
fit.
on. Nobody want to. Yep. They over
So,
here. They cozy because they already know they got to come on. We do not want your icons. We want to see you. They cozy. They like, I'll just chat it up.
that's fine. All right, people, it's been real. D, you know what we got to do.
What do we have to do?
Check the backstage. Did you check the backstage comments?
The backstage comments?
Yeah, the private chat.
Hold on. Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yep. So you know what we got to do.
Yes, I did see that.
Yep.
Yeah, me in there thinking it was something secret.
All right, people. Y'all, it's been real. I want y'all to have a good night. The rest of the night, I'll see y'all on different sites and whatnot. And if you are in Slack, I'll catch y'all in Slack. And if you are not in Slack, you're missing out. And I'll see y'all tomorrow morning at 11:30, and then at 2 o'clock. Do everything I would do. Everything I would do, and you can also do everything that D does.
I'm a hermit. I don't do nothing.
All right, y'all be safe and peace.